Welcome back to the Bourbon episode 142, I think. I am joined by three lovely ladies. We have set a new record of women on the podcast all at the same time. I'm not sure why they came, but I'm happy they did.
We came for the booze, Steve.
The booze, yeah.
He invited us.
That makes sense. So we've got Anne Dimmick, and she's with Watershed Distillery here in Columbus, Ohio. And we've had her on before, luckily, and we featured their products before. We've got some new stuff here as well. And then Kristin Rapp Richmond.
Correct.
And you are with RNDC. I always say it in the wrong word. Is that right?
That is correct.
RNDC, which stands for?
Republic National Distributing Company.
Okay.
The end result of multiple mergers and acquisitions over
And that's what we
many
call
decades.
RNDC. Yeah,
Still a family-owned company.
Really?
Love them, yes.
That's awesome. And then Amy Schirtzinger, owner of McClelland's Pub. As you can see behind her, maybe barely in the picture, we have a Jameson barrel up there instead of the McClelland's Pub barrel because it stayed in the garage for, it had to be like 6 months.
It was a while.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
You
But I
forgot
had great
it.
advertisement out of it.
It was perfect. Yeah, it's just like it was on the screen every week until I finally went over there after you guys opened back up. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun night.
Ooh.
It was a fun night. Both, actually, when you were here and McClelland's Pub. So introduce yourselves a little bit. I know I gave the overview, but if you guys can kind of give your, and we'll get into what you actually do and how it's going and all that stuff in part 2. But I do want to, before I do the sponsor thing, just kind of give a quick overview of what part of the whiskey industry you are in.
Start, Annie.
Oh, okay.
Go down the
I
line
get
there.
Well, the way I was looking at it is like you work for a specific supplier. So let's like you be
Oh.
specific.
This is good.
I'm going to be talking in generalities.
Like it.
And Amy owns a bar and restaurant, so she can talk about anything.
Right.
That was my thought process.
Go ahead, Anne.
All right, so Anne Dimmick, been in the liquor industry for about 11 years, and started out because I answered a Craigslist ad to do wine tastings in grocery stores. But before that, I was an engineer in the auto industry, and so worked for the Diageo portfolio, so like Captain Morgan and Bullet and all of that. Moved on, and for a lot of years I was with Campari, so Wild Turkey and Russell's Reserve, and then for the last year, Watershed Distillery, right here.
In Closewell.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen?
So I know Anne because I met her at this one's place,
Yep.
which was the natural progression for the three of us to come together to do this together.
Also sounds like a fun night.
Right? So great reputation, both of them. I started bartending a really long time ago, so I'm not going to hide it. You can see my gray hair anyway. I started bartending in 1998 to finish college full-time. Then I started in 1994 and working in business. So yeah, I was 24 when I started in 94.
That's a lot.
Okay, so anyway, I started bartending because I was like, I know these people make money. It's something I could be good at. I just want to finish school. So I was at Columbus State for 4 years part-time, working full-time, and then I transferred to Franklin University. It took like a year and 3 months to finish that up. Graduated with honors cum laude, which I was super proud of, in business administration. I met the two goals that I had was graduate before I turned 30 and graduate with honors, and I barely did both. Barely.
Good goals. They're very good goals.
So, much to my family's disapproval, I was in the bar industry and I stayed there. I had an offer to manage a bar. Used to be Woody Sports Club on Only Tangy River Road.
Okay.
Little hole-in-the-wall shop and beer and shop bar. So I did that with the intention of starting grad school a year later. That didn't happen, of course. And then I got to a point, after about 10 years of the whole thing, I was engaged. We were planning to have kids, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I made a leap of faith and left my bar with no job and a mortgage.
You could do the bar.
I just
do the
didn't do it,
relationship.
like emotionally. Right, correct.
That
came later, Steve. That was years later.
Perfect.
No, but yeah, so I was just over it. Like the owner was going to finance me on purchasing my own place, and we just couldn't find a spot. It just wasn't working out, and I told myself the universe was telling me not to do that. So I 3 months notice right before football season, I was like, I need to work. I need this money right off campus. And a month that was literally off work for a month, and I got a call for an interview with RNDC, and it just kind of all worked out, and I've learned a lot, and right where I should be, and happy to be here 13 years later.
13 years later.
Yeah, how about that?
Amy, how about you?
Well, I've been in the service industry since I was 14, so a while.
She's still a baby. Don't even.
14.
listen to that
14,
stuff.
yeah.
What were you doing at 14?
I was working at the Dairy Queen.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I started there, and they taught me how to like work and run and move fast and clean stuff, and then it just kind of progressed through restaurants. And then when I turned 21, I became a bartender, and then I started managing places. And I also got to a spot to where I wanted to leave the industry, and nobody would hire me. They kind of didn't see bar management and management is the same thing. Even though I can deal with the most difficult people, I still have a product. It's still management, but they just weren't doing it. So my significant other at the time suggested that we buy a place, and it was actually his idea, and it worked out really well.
That was what, 6 years ago, 7 years ago,
7
something
years
like
ago,
that.
yeah. So he's a great partner and has been full of support. And we've been doing that for 7 years.
Right. Well, so we're gonna be drinking tonight some Watershed products, like I said. I've got in my glass Nocino.
Yes. Nocino finished bourbon.
And what is Nocino for everyone out there?
Well, I actually brought some. So Watershed makes, in addition to our bourbon and our gin, we also make Nocino, which is a black walnut. It's Ohio black walnuts. And fun story, there was this guy that would come in and bring his family recipe of Nocino.
Yes.
He taught our owner how to make it. And they thought he was trying to sell the recipe. And he's like, no, I just really want somebody to make my family's Nocino. So he is a retired physician in Upper Arlington. His name is Charlie. So every single bottle says on the back of it, thanks, Charlie.
Love it.
And a couple of years ago, as an experiment, we did one batch of Nocino, because you make it in the summertime, you harvest when the walnuts are still green.
Okay.
But they made some extra one year, and then they took it and barrel aged it in one of our spent bourbon barrels, and it was amazing. And so it sold out right away. So now all of our Nocino is finished in bourbon barrels. Well, then somebody got this great idea, like, hey, what if after we dump out the barrel finished Nocino, we refill it with our bourbon again? So it's actually finished for a year in our Nocino barrels, which were
The bourbon
first.
barrels that were Nocino barrels, now they're bourbon barrels
Right,
again.
right. So Nocino, it's a black walnut liqueur. It's got vanilla and lemon peel and clove, and so it's this like lovely warm. You can make a black Manhattan with it. All of these like fun winter spices. It's an Italian liqueur, and then you put it with the bourbon, and it's like Christmas.
It is
fall.
I can smell the clove.
good.
For sure.
It's basically, I mean, I get like figs,
Fizz,
dark dried fruit, dates,
mistletoe, and tinsel.
tinsel.
I heard they're canceling Christmas this year.
Good.
Sorry. So you're gonna have to drink more of it.
I actually bring it to every Christmas.
Nocino?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yours is actually my favorite. I've tried a ton of them. Because like this was the first one I ever had, and I loved it. So I bought a bunch of others, and they didn't really stand up to this one.
Very nice.
So I always bring bottles to my family Christmas, and everyone
Nice.
shows up, and they're like, "Did you bring the walnuts?" So
All that
did.
stuff.
What is it that's reminding me of juniper and gin? Because you're not putting juniper in it, but I'm getting a big
No.
like, and I've tasted it 3 times, and there's something in it. There's
That's-
some note that is.
So it's interesting you say that, because I heard that from a handful of people. We just had our 6-year barrel strength release. There were a handful of people that are like, I almost get like this botanical note to it.
On this?
So no,
Oh.
we just had a 6-year anniversary bourbon that
Yeah.
came out.
We featured that.
It's like I'm getting it in the middle, like
Yeah.
the initial sip, and then
I can see what you're saying.
before I
Yeah.
swallow it and let it roll around a little bit, I'm getting it in the middle.
Well,
Did you say juniper?
Yeah.
Like the
Oh.
gins that they're making
Like
these
a-
days have like 11.
See, now that
very-
you say that, it's almost like, yeah.
There's an evergreen feeling in the middle of this.
Christmas, right in the
Christmas.
bottle.
It's all over it.
Mm-hmm.
All over it.
Christmas
Have you
in
guys
Hollywood.
tried this? Yeah.
The galleries say.
I mean, especially after it's gone, and then doing the very attractive whiskey chew, the vapors and the fumes that are left in that flavor. Sorry, I've
Trying to coach as
never
well.
been accused of not talking too loudly before.
You just gotta keep your face pointed at the mic.
Okay.
Turn when you talk. It is.
But I'm talking to her, so I have to like.
No.
Talking to her, but talking to
Talk
them.
to
It's
them.
just kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Talk to each other.
That's right. I'm on
Yeah.
camera.
You're on camera, talking to the mics, it's audio, it's podcast, really.
It's my
Tell us
first
about
time for
sponsors.
sure.
You want to hear the sponsors? Well, Watershed is kind of a
Absolutely.
sponsor. Normally, I jump into the sponsors before we get into that, but I wanted to introduce you guys so everyone kind of knows who's on this panel. But yeah, sponsors.
It's a runway panel.
It's going to be a runway panel. If you notice on the screen, I am off to the side, and I feel like it's going to somehow zoom in on them, and I'm going to leave the podcast. But our sponsor tonight is Tinder Box at Easton. We have the Camacho Connecticut is our featured cigar tonight. We'll get into that a little bit. Love that cigar. Thank you, Tinder Box at Easton. Also, Altadis USA. Behind us is the banner here, Romeo Julieta, Monte Cristo, Upman, among others. We have an Upman for you guests as well, an H Up in Nicaragua, which is made by AJ Fernandez for the second cigar of the night. And also, BS Cigar Company is sponsor. I've got some BS Golds in the garage, but check those out as well. So thank you, BS Cigar Company. And also, I'll throw up here Patreon.com. This is a growing thing, I think, in a lot of industries, including this industry that you guys are a part of, because I know YouTube was getting in the way of monetizing a lot of the reviews and everything for things like Watershed. If someone gets their hands on a bottle, they want to do a review, such a big thing. I know that YouTube was getting in the way of monetizing both the cigar or tobacco and alcohol. So Patreon.com, we love it. We have some great supporters. Patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast. You get a cool shirt. There's a bunch of different tiers. $5 tier, $10 tier, $25 tier. And we appreciate all you guys supporting us as well. And you can go on there and you can cancel at any time, do whatever you want. I appreciate it. Thank you for featuring that. Anyways, going back to this, Watershed, we've had you guys on twice, and I do want to kind of go into this. I know we talked a bit about it. What is the plan? This is a smaller release, like you said, right? So once a year along with the Nocino? Or is this the Nocino a regular product?
Nocino is available year-round
Okay.
right now. When it first came out, I remember it would sell
It was a slow
out
one,
and
yeah.
it'd stock up and all of that. We make quite a bit at this point, but we're available in a lot of states. And it's been interesting because that is just such a favorite, especially when you get outside of Ohio, because there really isn't anything like it. The Nocino bourbon is just, it's a one-time release.
It's a one-timer.
Yeah. Well, it's
So
a
you do it
one-time
another
release this year.
It's a small batch.
Yeah,
So you call it a small batch?
right.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be on store shelves, and it's just,
How many, where do you get it?
we make it. Oh.
How did you make it? I didn't
No.
assume that like
There's one
Kroger and
get
some
it.
liquor stores.
No. So it'll be just at the bottle shop this year.
That's at the distillery.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Columbus,
When?
Ohio.
In Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
So you can't get it. What's that? When?
When will it be released?
It will be as part of our annual Nocino Fest, which we do that every year in December. It's usually like around the first Saturday of December.
Nocino Fest.
Nocino Fest, which is usually
A lot of
something.
games.
It's live and it's big. This year, it's
Smaller this year.
probably not going to be like that.
Smaller.
So watch our social media.
Driving.
Just Watershed
Sometime in the
Distillery,
next-
right?
Yeah, Watershed Distillery,
Yeah.
all social channels, and they'll make an announcement about this and when it goes on sale. But
No,
December.
it's fun. You guys just did also a like some sort of drive-through barrel, like small batch releases. I was working. It was a Saturday, which I don't appreciate very much, but I know a couple of customers went over there, and it was something that you were posting all these pictures of all these unique bottles.
Oh, that one. That was actually not drive-through. So it was socially distanced. Everybody wore masks. we closed off the street,
That's what it
and
was.
then only, we limited like how many people were sort of in there, but we did a single barrel sale. So
That's what it was, yeah.
it was
Very
a bunch
unique
of
bottles.
custom label, kind of partnership ones that we've done before, things that have never been offered for sale to the public.
Like a Pinot Noir bourbon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had
Cabernet, I think one.
bourbon finished in Pinot Noir barrels. We had
Yeah.
one finished in Cabernet barrels. We've never sold our wine finished bourbon before. That was a collaboration with the barn.
Oh, I love Barn.
And
Will you be doing
I
that in
have
the future?
we are working actually just today. We were talking about, so what are we doing next year? But we have a plan for something similar, and I think it's going to be even more fun. It'll be similar, but even better.
I'm excited.
It'll be fun.
So what you know,
I-
it's not-
Very
Yeah,
cool.
can you advertise that in advance? I may have to work at least half day on Saturday. Or do it on a Sunday.
Well, okay, I'll put that in.
Yeah,
I'll
you were not going to make any decisions based on me.
Sunday works.
Sunday works.
I'm not the official event person.
I'm going to
I
write a
work with
strongly worded email.
Okay, Karen.
That's right. This kind of builds on you as you're sipping it.
It does. Do
I
you guys need
think.
more? I probably didn't pour
I
more.
will,
Yes.
but for the next few sips, I'm good.
I don't know about you, but I think now that like my palate's getting used to it, and I am smoking the Camacho, so but it's kind of growing. It's kind of I don't want to say tart. There's something towards the back making my mouth really kind of water with
This
this.
one of my colleagues calls that getting the sweetsies.
Sweetsies.
Yes, when you get that little you start that almost salivating thing in the back of your glands here.
Yeah.
When something's like, mine's actually calming down. My palate's calming down as I get through this.
So walnuts, they're not related to peanuts, right? We can establish that, right? They're tree nuts, right? Is that? Can we look this up? I have a peanut
Who's
allergy,
got
so
their
that's
Google
why.
open?
Yeah, they're not the same.
Yeah, they're tree nuts.
I
Yeah.
have a tree nut allergy. Not the same.
So you can drink this?
Hey, we'll see.
What can someone Google? Dustin, can you?
You're
Google
fine so far.
No, it's fine.
walnuts? Right. No, it's
Anybody got an
delayed.
EpiPen?
No, I'm good.
Got the heat going. No. Can you Google walnuts and see what family they're in? Tree nuts or
No, they're a
The
tree
tree
nut.
nut.
they're
Yeah.
tree
No,
nuts?
it's fine.
Tree nut.
They're those things that
My
fall on.
EpiPens are absolutely
See.
expired. Yes.
It's a tree nut. You're good.
Okay. But Amy may not be.
It's fine.
Amy, I can't vouch for Amy.
Just slide the camera this way when she has
We're
to.
live. Somebody will come save us.
So smoking a cigar and
Exactly.
drinking this.
It wouldn't be
I
the
think
first
has a
time.
lot of
It wouldn't be the first time someone's had an allergic reaction here in the garage.
Yeah, Nate had a major allergic reaction. He was sitting behind the camera. It got nasty. He got better.
Yeah, the more I drink.
We survived.
Just drink. You can just drink through anything. It fixes pretty much
What
all
were
of
you
it.
allergic to that you had the reaction?
Have no idea.
Nothing. You don't.
It happened on my way here, and I had like a red rash all over.
Yikes.
So Ian's got a question here actually about this. I'm gonna try to pull it up on the screen. Private chat comments. The screen is so far away, and I have a 13-inch laptop. This doesn't really do well for my eyes. So you got all this finishing bourbon in different barrels. Is it to mute the taste or make it sweeter for those who may not appreciate the burn?
Can I address that?
Sure. Is anyone?
Finishing is a fairly new innovation in whiskey, and a lot of people question whether that will still fall under your laws in definitions. Not a brand that I sell, so I have no problem mentioning it. This is a battle in some Facebook groups about an instance I will give is you guys can say the brand, but it is a bourbon that is finished in port barrels. Starts with an A. Right. Which I launched that brand, by the way. It was awesome. It's a great brand. I don't sell it anymore, so I have no problem saying that. But finishing is to change things. It is to see what you can take to another level. We saw it first in Scotch. The Balvenie is historic for being one of the first to do that. With their 21-year-old portwood finish, and more recently, but still not that long ago, the 14-year Caribbean cask, which is just, it's done so well. I won't go into it right now. We can talk about it later if you want to, but I just did a course in Wine and Spirits Education Trust, and that they did not talk about hardly any brands in specific. That was one that they brought up in talking about finishing. So I wouldn't say it's to mute a taste or it's to soften anything if you don't appreciate the burn. You can always add water to whiskey if it's too high proof for you. If your palate maybe not as developed as some other people who would enjoy something with less water or with less. I don't know. I started out drinking Gentleman Jack and water over ice, and now here we are 13 years later. So my point is that your palate changes, but I don't believe that people are finishing things in order to mute taste or make it sweeter necessarily. Sweet is a different definition when you're talking about spirits than it is when you're talking about cookies and sugar. The burn, if it burns, then add water. I mean, if I'm going to teach somebody how to drink whiskey who really wants to, the first thing I'm going to tell them is taste it straight, add as much water, drop by drop, as it takes to make it palatable for you.
Yeah, what you enjoy, right? I mean,
Right.
That's just the way
I
it
don't
works.
want you to drink whiskey any other way
proof of
except
this.
how you enjoy it.
110.
And if it's mine and I'm going to get paid from that somehow. Just kidding. No, really for anybody that's learning or who is new to the category, that is my advice for the way to go is just start adding water.
See, you're so much nicer than me. I'm like, don't add ice, don't add water, drink it.
That's just it.
Yeah. No, I'm
It's a
serious.
strong stance. I mean, that's good.
People always, can I get whatever on the rocks? And I'm like, I'll put it on the side. You can ruin it yourself.
So I
Says the bar owner.
Right.
And you do say that as the bar owner, right?
And
Yeah,
she
like
can,
daily.
and
Daily.
she can. I feel like my position, which I love the three of us women being here together because we all have a very different position in this industry. Like I feel like my position is a lot as an educator. They call us sales reps, but of course we're in Ohio, so I'm not actually selling you the product.
Right.
I'm promoting the product. I'm marketing the
I'm
product.
teaching us about the
You're doing like a
products.
roundabout way,
I-
right? Like you want to get people interested, so therefore bars will pick it up,
Right?
right? And
Help us
then
build a brand.
build a brand,
or
and then you're
expand a
the
brand.
liquor
Yeah.
agencies get it, and they order from the state,
Correct.
who orders it from you,
The suppliers. It goes through the distributor.
right?
Whatever we get in Ohio.
But that's the way you guys get them in there, right? Is that you basically try to create hype through the bars first, typically,
so
that
no,
then people
it's
are asking
going to
for
be
it, or
a supplier initiative.
okay,
So if you have a new flavor of vodka that you want to get in the state of Ohio,
Yeah.
they're going to look at the brand as a whole. How is that brand selling across multiple SKUs? And if they think that maybe we can piggyback on the success of that brand, because Ohio's crazy and they're very particular about stuff. So if we get it into the state, then our suppliers are going to go through my bosses to make that a priority for me
Okay.
as an on-premise sales rep to get that product out there and get it in people's mouths. We know statistically that people sample in the on-premise. They're much more likely, if they go to a bar, to try something for whatever the price is of one drink,
Sure.
rather than they are to go out to
Sure.
a brand new product and try it,
Yeah.
buying the entire bottle.
Absolutely,
So-
especially with prices now. I mean, you look at a lot of we're talking about bourbons and stuff. I mean, you're walking in typically. I say 40 to 50 is like your average Ohio retail price.
For
Yeah.
quality, I mean,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, there
That's the
are plenty of
jumping off
quality
point.
brands that are lower.
Absolutely.
But there and I read articles every day in an industry newsletter where they're watching these things and what's going on, and people are not trending down on bourbon on what they're spending. They're not.
Yeah.
No, in fact, they're going up. I mean, and so some of the stuff is also, you said in Ohio, you've got some more limited options because it is a state-run liquor agency. So even stuff that you like, being local, you guys have to from my understanding, you have to work with the state to get it put on the shelves.
Correct. That is determined by what we call category managers, which is a nonpartisan, several people that work together through different distributors,
Okay.
so that it's not one person saying, I have a better relationship with this person from the state, so I get to put my brand on the top shelf. And it is done by sales statistics and price.
Data driven.
Absolutely
Very
data
how?
driven.
Done how?
Sorry.
When you say data-driven.
Price.
Well,
Goodness. So if we
put it
look
this
at
way, so if I wanted to find Watershed Distillery bourbon in the state of Ohio, we have the OHLQ website.com, and you can. It's updated daily. It's sort of updated daily as far as the actual things. I mean, I've seen it where I'm walking into a store and it's like it was updated 5 minutes ago at this time, and you're
then
like,
it's
okay,
gone.
cool, and I'm like, hey, do you have this? No, we haven't gotten that in. I'm like, cool. So I mean, that does happen at times, but if I don't see
24
Watershed,
hours behind.
is it?
Yeah, that's
Alright.
that's what I've heard.
Is that?
Yeah.
But like if Watershed Distillery bourbon, which is like a staple now on most of the shelves around at least Columbus, I can't vouch for other places, but
Yeah.
if I don't see it there, where is that breaking down in the supply chain?
It could be that it's not in that store.
Okay,
Can I talk about listing real quick?
you can talk about whatever you
an
want.
allocation and
I'm gonna-
the
can I have
craziness,
another-
if they want to hear all
May I
this.
have another?
Oh,
This,
absolutely.
all
May I
this
have
part
another?
sounds boring to me, but it's what we
So-
do. So
If you guys were part of liquor, what is it? How many years ago? Has it been like 4 or 5 years now? When it was the crazy years where, I mean, the level of visibility right now in terms of inventory, store inventory, it's still not always like perfect, but it's
so much better.
so good. It's
a lot
so
better.
great. Yeah. But when you submit a new listing, it's not, kind of like you said, it's not based on opinion. It's you have to show as a supplier, if they're going to give you some space in a store, you have to show this is what this is why it should be here, the price, everything, and this is how we're going to support it. So let's say, if our distributor is RNDC, we're going to
Which
work
it's
with
not.
It's not, but
Nonpartisan
no,
group up
it's
here.
not. But we're going to work with our distributor,
Right.
and we'll be making sure that they're presenting this to all of the bars and restaurants.
It's a lot of
and
moving parts.
We're gonna. I mean, but
yes.
it's also like they don't want a brand to come in and just get on the shelf and nobody support it. You don't tell anybody about it.
No,
you
but
know,
so
that sort of thing.
So, Amy, McClelland's Pub, you have an assigned state liquor store.
Yeah.
Correct. That's how
Yeah.
Ohio works. I don't know about where everyone else is at, but say you wanted to have Watershed bourbon on there, right? On the shelf. say you would.
Say I would have these.
Hypothetically,
Assuming I had Watershed.
you had a
Sure.
gun to your head, and
Right.
Yeah, no.
but you go to your state assigned store, and they don't have it.
So that
So where's the
well,
movement there?
the one that we're tasting right now, I message Anne and I say,
What the hell?
"Where is mine, please?"
That's right.
And she makes it happen. So a lot of times they can.
no, you have the 6-year, the barrel strength.
10
Oh
anniversary.
yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
whatever it is that I don't have,
Yeah.
So, sometimes I can go that route.
Right.
Sometimes they can order it in. Sometimes they've got to go pick it up and move it over.
Do you ever hear like a no from the store?
Well, I don't.
Oh, Jesus.
You're asking the wrong.
So recently,
Hypothetically, can a bar owner hear a no on
Yes.
something? Okay.
Sure.
Sure.
I
Not
mean,
Amy,
because you don't
not
have
McClelland.
you don't have unlimited.
Don't be
you know,
sour,
just
Steve.
to
Don't
throw
be
something
sour.
out. Like you don't have unlimited blends or something. I'm just like
Right.
Don't.
Right.
Or
I wouldn't
Pappy.
Yeah.
know.
I need to order Pappy. Yeah, we all do. So
Yeah.
That's
So
I
you do
love
get
that
no's. You
from
do.
people.
Yeah.
You get most of it though, especially if it's a new product. They're really trying to push it. So it's you want to try to get something shipped over, moved over. I've had different ones too from a lot of smaller companies that you kind of have to. They come in and taste you. Would you purchase this if it's available in the state?
Right.
And they kind of have to get so many petition signs almost.
That's what I was thinking about when I was saying that earlier, because they had there was that one. I sent them over to McClelland's.
Yeah.
I forget what company that was.
Yes.
They were
Yeah.
trying to get into the state. They were working
Trying
on
to do
it.
barrel picks and stuff.
Yeah.
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 Are these like grassroots companies that
There's
you're
more of a
talking about?
grassroots
Okay, so
company.
like if you're an established supplier, with a brand
It's a
that's
lot
been
easier.
around, I wouldn't say it's easier, but you don't have to go through jump through all those
Yeah.
hoops to get. The people at the state know you when you walk in to present these
That makes
brands.
sense,
They know
yeah.
your name. They know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's online now.
Right.
Like it's not even. It really is very, very data driven.
So we also have a limit to the number of stores as a distributor that we are allowed to allocate these brands into if they're brand new.
Okay.
So
So it's like a new client of
and
yours.
it's an ever changing, like constantly trying to find the best way to do it kind of thing.
Right.
The thing is, if you have your brand in 300 stores, and it's only selling in 200 of them. So a brand is not at risk to be delisted for 12 months once it's listed, once it's in Ohio. So what my company is going to do as a distributor is we're going to look at our brands, and we don't want our brands delisted. So we're going to say, okay, this brand is at risk because it's not selling in Findlay.
Okay.
So we're going to go to Findlay, we're going to transfer it out of that store, and we're going to transfer it to the store that is selling it so that we can keep the sales active and keep the brand moving in the state of Ohio.
Makes
The last thing the state wants is for their brands that they paid for to be sitting on a store shelf being warehoused and not moving.
Certainly.
Right.
Certainly.
Right?
Right.
That's what any of us would want.
That's right.
So.
And they actually, I mean, there's a report and it tells you like how your stuff is doing, whatever SKU it is, in every single store in the state that it's in.
How often is that report generated?
You can go on a computer and just
On a computer.
every day.
It's online.
You can get on and it shows you your performance over a certain period of
So
time.
you go on the World
So-
Wide Web.
So we have, I guess, as a state, they are so advanced in terms of being data driven and making sure that the right products are in the right store.
Right.
And that's more recent, correct?
It's very
Yes.
recent.
Yes.
Like last
Yeah.
couple years?
Yeah,
Last,
last so many years.
yeah, like
Yeah.
More than a couple, but yeah, I would agree
Yeah.
with that. Which makes sense, right?
Oh, it's. I can't say enough about it.
Right.
It's
right.
great.
I mean,
Yeah.
locally, being a local brand that you are,
Mhm.
it's going to be harder for you to get support in Toledo.
Completely.
So,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to this bottle.
We bored everybody.
Not at all. The views went up. No, this
Talk
is education.
about Excel.
Can I say something in before you do, Steve? Can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I just seen
I
a
feel like
comment.
that's going to happen a lot tonight.
Okay.
So there's a comment from a woman who happened to hire me in this company.
Oh.
Who is this woman?
Her name is Dallas Cheatham.
Okay.
She works for Brown Foreman.
Yeah.
She's moved around in a bunch of different positions. She literally left and started with Brown Foreman the day that I started. So she hired me and then she left.
Sorry, I'm holding on to that bottle.
Anyway, she says, what a difference a few years makes. Love seeing these women lead our industry and talk about whiskey. And the only reason I'm interrupting you is because
No,
this
please
was
do.
the thought when I brought up about doing this thing is it has changed so very much.
Right.
What our role is being women. When I started as a sales rep, bartending's a whole different game, and there were challenges there too. But starting as a sales rep, and obviously I had to learn first before I could go in and try to have anybody take me seriously. But once I was learning and I was knowledgeable, the task of getting people like old white men that have been running fine dining restaurants for 20 years to get to listen to me,
Sure.
you know. So
I think
anyway,
there's a lot
I
of
just
industries,
wanted.
but this is
Yeah.
one of those we've talked about it.
Very
when,
male dominated forever.
yeah.
But I just wanted to bring that up. We don't have to stick with it or anything. But
No,
since she posted that, I wanted to recognize her. Thanks, Dallas.
I got to be honest. I get torn sometimes. Like when Amy was on the first time, we had 2 weeks back to back where I had Amy on and from the whiskey side of things, and I had Laurel Tilley from Macanudo Cigars, and so it was like kind of we did this 2-part thing with women in the different industries. It's the day and age we're in right now too. I mean, it's reality, but it's like when I have 3 women on, it's like, do you talk about women in the industry, or you just talk like a normal podcast without highlighting the fact that you have 3 women on here?
Right.
It's almost like you want to make it normalized, but then it's like you have an opportunity because it is still not as common. So it's
Right.
like, okay, do we talk about it? Do we not talk about it? It's like, you know what? Fuck it, we're gonna talk.
Yeah, I
about
want to talk about it.
it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you might as well, right? I mean, like,
So
why not?
Amy mentioned I was actually at her place when you were posting. This is the first time I've had 3 women on
Yes.
the show, and I said, you know what? That speaks volumes of why I'm thrilled that you are
Absolutely.
having 3 women on your
Absolutely.
show, because we.
And we love each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, and we all love
I think
whiskey.
is this where I have to step out?
No, you don't need to. And I'm not going to
That's
keep
a-
talking
that's
and taking
different.
over.
That's
but-
different.
That's a
so
different
fun.
podcast.
Anne is a perfect example of what happened and where she is, where she came from. So she was a STEM intellectual person in her career, right?
Okay.
And
Views are
I'm
going
not
up
going
right
to downplay what you did when you got into this industry, but I know the different levels in what you did. So you were going and sampling people in in agencies, right? Is what you said?
Oh yeah.
Right.
No, I worked in the grocery store.
Right. So how many
So
people you
fun.
think are taking her
I still
seriously,
do that.
standing behind a
So it is
table, selling samples for 50 cents?
Samples of what?
Anything.
Spirits.
Anything.
Any spirits.
Anything.
Any
Yeah.
spirits.
I
That
absolutely
became
would
legal
take
in
you
Ohio,
seriously.
what, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago?
It's
I've-
so
this-
fun.
the same
No,
problem all
you
the
know
time.
what? Look at her though. I mean,
Oh,
and
come
this
on.
has to be addressed. She's beautiful. She's adorable.
Yeah.
And you're a dude, and you walk into a store, and you're like,
I'm interested in
sure,
where this
I'll
is gonna
try
go.
it. I
Yes,
got
absolutely
50
gonna say that.
cents.
You are going to
And-
get a lecture on bourbon.
from this woman, right?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
get. Have you ever tried any of these?
Right. So I will tell you of different experiences. Different
Nope.
experiences of women in those positions.
Yeah.
Often we refer to them as brand ambassadors.
Right.
That's kind. That's a
Behind
kind-
the
yeah.
door,
Yes.
promo models. I won't tell you what I called them when I ran a bar
Will you
and had the
please?
Jaeger girls in.
That's different.
I've never sold Jaeger, so I don't care what they think of me. No, I'm not going to tell you what I said because it's
I think when
as
you talk
a
about, like-
woman that's trying to build
Yeah.
other women up. I'm not going to say that.
Well, I think that's a
Um,
different angle that I will say because like the whole like.
But
Jaeger
literally,
girls
there are
like,
women that did
against
the same thing.
girls. I get it.
There are women, and bless their hearts. I mean, make your living. Use what you have to make your money for whatever purpose you are, and I'm not judging that. What I'm saying is that a lot of those women were not taken seriously.
Certainly not.
Whether they should or should not have been is not for me to say. However, if you have a brand ambassador in a bar giving you a sample of a shot, that could very well be the same brand ambassador that's standing behind a table in an agency sampling for retail
Wish I
sale,
could get
right?
that up there.
So
Captain.
Anne comes from STEM, education, professional business.
Look at what she's
and
showing
then,
me while
see,
you're talking about
This is exactly
It's
what
not
I'm talking
porn.
about. And
It's
again,
not porn.
it's not porn. And I respect every second of it because I could show you some pictures too, which I'm not going to right this second. However,
I love this.
my point, she went through these phases of her career as an adult female
Sure.
and went from an intellectual position using the education and decided to change and started at a level that has less respect, as I would say, than any job in our industry. I mean, seriously, how many hot promo models have you seen?
Well, I want to.
All of them.
I wanna
Like, none of them
hold
are
on
not.
Real quick here, I want to. Eric made a really interesting comment about how women have a kind of a more in tune palate as well. So the fact that
That's actually been researched
Yeah.
and shown to be true.
right.
So
So
I was gonna say, what were the results?
Right, right.
What, so it's kind of if you are trained to pick up certain notes on it, why wouldn't you listen to us? Because we're proven to just have a better palate than you guys.
I
Sorry.
think yeah. Ray Chester's like, I'm confused. Is this part 1 or part 2?
Right, I
mean,
know.
A little
I'm
bit of
gonna
both.
stop
It's a little bit
talking
of both.
for
That's all right. It's all right.
Whoa,
It's all
Ray.
right.
Whoa, Ray.
No, but I agree with you, and cigar industry is actually that's one of the parallels, right? Is that
Sure.
that was having Laurel on for Macanudo cigars. She's fantastic, and she started in the retail side, and she had stories for days about the same thing. She'd be in a store, and she's super sharp. She knows her shit, and it would be like a guy comes in, and you have that stereotype, and it's like same type of
Is
thing
your
that Amy
boss
said.
here?
Right.
Is your boss
Right,
here?
right,
Have you
right.
tried these? And she's rattling off all this information. So absolutely 100%. And I think that yes, there's research there. Same thing with color sorting for cigars. Like when they're matching it up, you typically will have women doing that because, according to the countries these come out of, they've had historical. I don't know if it's been researched like with actual scientific studies, but it's just over time they see that women were able to sort based off of color shades. So when you say like these 4 cigars, a lot of times on a box of 20, there are a lot of cigars that you open up 2 different boxes of the same cigar, and you take one out of each box, and they won't look the same. Because
That's
it is like more of a
interesting.
natural, much like the bottles, right? I mean, it's a little bit like that. The small batches, you'll see that. Single barrels, you might have color variations. This is wrapper leaf so they look at, say, out of 100 cigars, they start basically bunching those into different groups to box up together. Because you don't want to open up one box of cigars and then you see like, okay, this is like a lighter brown than this one, and it's like it's a mental game at that point. They may taste the same or they may taste very, very similar, if you will, because sometimes the shade will affect the flavor slightly, but not to your typical cigar smoker. These are more the people that.
Would you
are
tell
very-
us about the cigar? By the way, we haven't gotten there yet, but it's
We took
delightful.
over, we took over.
It's
All right,
delightful.
I kind of figured. So yeah, it's Camacho. We've had Camacho cigars on the podcast before. This was started way back, and I'm forgetting all the years now. And I just took a course with Camacho the last weekend, and then I started talking to Nate, and so he starts looking it up, and I know I'm going to forget it when I get on here. So, but you said 1961, 1962. 1962. The band says 1962. Anyways, so Simon Camacho started. That's where the name came from. Christian Aroa, who we've also featured his cigars. Nook's been on before. We've actually had CLE cigars, but that was another phase. So yeah, Christian Aroa bought the company. They grew it. They did a lot of these blends and grew the portfolio. They sold it to Davidoff, which is a major company in the industry. And so now they own it. They have rebranded it. They've done some reblending as well. I did bring up, because I have all the actual tools now from this course, but I'm going to add this to the screen there. So you've got the blend up on the screen there, and it's an Ecuadorian Connecticut. So it's not a true Connecticut. I don't know if you guys are as familiar with it, but when you see Connecticut, it is Connecticut seed. So the Connecticut River Valley is a very big tobacco for cigars growing area. In fact, Connecticut broadleaf is not this. This is Connecticut shade, but Connecticut broadleaf is now very low in supply because the weed industry got involved, and that apparently makes great blunt wraps. And so they made a huge buy on that. So now
I might know some people that wrap in. Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, so I've got the blend up there. Let me see if I can actually read it on here. Yeah. So the big thing that Camacho is known for is that authentic Corojo. This is Corojo seed. So it's all tobacco, right? That's the one thing with this is it's all tobacco. But the Corojo is a seed that was really well known in Cuba for a long time. And so they brought that over to Honduras. And so Camacho, and I will, not to take away from Camacho, but Christian Roa still has that authentic Corojo. And even Cuba has had to kind of do a hybrid to battle certain things in their climate and in their soil, so it's not as authentic, if you will. And then the filler, you've got Ligero from Honduras and Dominican Republic, and then they do a box press. So this is a round cigar. They do a box press version of it. And the one thing that they did differently with Camacho, with the Connecticut and also the Corojo blend, which we're not smoking tonight, and the Ecuador blend, they did 3 box press versions of these cigars, and they added Pennsylvania broadleaf into the filler.
What's box press mean?
So instead of like, see how this is like a round
yeah.
cigar, box press is more of like a square shape,
Okay.
as opposed to being rounded.
Is it like the same like circumference and
More or
diameter,
less, yeah. So they do the same
size?
thing. Yeah, this is a 5x50. So if you had a 5x50 box press, it would almost just be, it would be a little, I don't want to say easier. Yeah, it's rectangular. There are some cigars that we've had on the podcast, and we have, you know, they're very popular, that are true just square shape. As far as the diameter is not a circle. Now you're dealing with just a square.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to explain it. But yeah, so this is something that this is their best-selling blend. Is a milder blend, but Camacho is all about their slogans are, you know, be bold, and so that's where this is something that has a bit more body than a lot of your typical Connecticut blends.
Interesting.
Connecticut usually you'll have either Ecuadorian grown because it's cheaper to grow it in Ecuador. You can grow in bigger volume, but the true Connecticut seed is going to add a little bit of price as well. But they're typically going to be milder cigars. Just and we've talked about it before for anyone out there that hasn't listened to that or know that part of it is that when you see a lighter shade wrapper, everyone asks like, so that's a mild cigar, and a dark shade wrapper is a full body cigar. Like you look at the Upman on the table there, that's a pretty dark wrapper leaf, but it's not a real full-bodied cigar. This one here, you know. So it does, sometimes they'll blend it accordingly. It does typically blend with a Maduro, which means mature, but Maduro is also a shade. It gets a little more complicated with that because of the terminology. You'll see Maduro is just a dark shade, and they're like, oh, that's our full-bodied one. So if you were like an entry-level whiskey company, it's kind of the same thing with like an entry-level cigar company. is that you're like, all right, we're gonna have 3 blends. We're gonna have a Connecticut, a Corojo, or a sun grown is what they'll call it a lot of times, and a Maduro, and it's like mild, medium, and full body. And that's not always the
Which
case
one
if
do you
you're-
prefer to pair with your bourbon?
It depends on the bourbon, and that's the thing anymore. So that was
I
actually
feel
a
like
cool
this
part.
one is a little bit spicy, but it mellows out. As soon as you let it out, it really finishes nice, and you're still able to taste all of this and enjoy this
Yeah.
at the same time. And you know, I have trouble sometimes pairing them up, so I tend to go a little bit lighter just to make sure that I don't overpower my bourbon or scotch. This one does nicely, but for you, what do you pair with your bourbon or whiskey usually?
So the one thing I've learned, there are, what's that? BS Gold, yeah. Well, yeah, shameless plug. Yeah, BS Gold for sure goes with a lot. It's medium bodied, and we kind of had that idea is that it's kind of anyone for a mild to full bodied smoker, so the whole spectrum should be able to enjoy the cigar. May not be their favorite if you're always full bodied or you're mild, and it goes with a lot of different whiskeys and other spirits, really. But that's why I chose the Camacho Connecticut, is because not knowing exactly what we were going to be drinking from Watershed tonight, and now we have 3 bottles on the table, this cigar should be able to kind of roll through all 3 bottles.
Could
And
you?
It's not going to overpower, but because Camacho does put some Ligero, which Ligero is the top primings of a tobacco plant, which typically will have more nicotine, which means it has more strength. But when you put that in, you're able to blend it into a good tasting, milder blend. They still classify this in their own portfolio as a medium-bodied cigar.
Okay.
But I think it's definitely a milder, smoother cigar.
Yeah, definitely.
Very pleasant. I think anyone can smoke it. You're not going to get this huge punch in the throat as far as
No.
like harshness
Still
or
feeling good
spice.
over here.
There you go.
So, could you, for people who are choosing a new cigar, the size of the cigar, the width of it, could you kind of talk about how that affects the smoke too? Because you have some that are super fat, super thin. Can you kind of, if you're to pick a new one, what you're looking for as to what?
I would typically pick. It's a great question. I think I would typically pick a cigar based on your personal preference as far as ring gauge, which
But
is the
it affects the
thickness.
smoke too. The
It
thickness.
can affect it, yes, but it's kind of it's slight in my opinion.
Okay.
For most blends, it's slight, and even some of the companies will change up the ratio of the filler just a little bit to try to have more consistency
Okay.
from a 5x50 to say a 6x60, so a 6-inch and a fatter cigar. I know there are certain blends that I've talked to, their blenders, and they're flat out open about the fact they're like, yeah, we actually added another leaf of Ligero in this size because it didn't taste quite the same, but we wanted to make this cigar. Most blenders that I have relationships with, they will have a favorite size that they like to blend.
And is that just a hand preference, or is that a
No, it's
smoke?
just kind of like their
preference?
jumping off point.
Okay.
And so if they have, like, say it is a 5x50, they do most of their test blends or prototypes in a 5x50. If they like where it's headed, then they'll roll it in other sizes they might throw in the portfolio. But I would say most of the time when you're selecting a cigar, I'd go off of smoking time. You know, it's something that, it's funny, you have that classic American type of a thing. You're like, oh, well, this cigar is $8.95, but this is an inch longer and thicker, and it's only $1 more. Like, yeah, I might as well get the bigger one. You know, it's like supersizing a fry. You know what I mean? So that's where this is. I find myself going back and forth based on the scenario anymore. Like right now in the shop, we're working retail where we have to have masks on when customers are in. I'm not gonna, like before, it's like, yeah, I'll light up a 6-inch cigar, or a 7-inch, Churchill size, which is a 7-inch cigar. I'll light that up. That's fine. Now a cigar like this may last like an open to close shift. I mean, you're going like 10 hours on a 5-inch cigar because you were kind of busy. So you set it down, and then you have to put the mask on, and then more customers come in, and all of a sudden like a half hour's gone by, and you haven't been smoking. So I don't want to just waste a longer cigar. Some people don't even, like, people that are listening, they may not even want you to relight a cigar. You'll hear that sometimes, like, well, if it goes out, I'm done with the cigar. Being in the industry, I think that I'm definitely not that way anymore.
Can I ask you a question too? Since
No.
I'm not a cigar
No.
person,
No, you can't.
but I am a whiskey person, particularly bourbon. How often do you, like, if you try the same spirit with or without smoking a cigar? Because like I said, I haven't smoked a cigar in years,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it affected my palate from the get go.
Oh, yeah.
So how often do you try things with the different influence with smoking a cigar or not smoking a cigar? Like the same exact spirit from the same bottle, and how does that change things?
I will typically, so for me, and I think a lot of people are much the same way, you will sometimes not have an opportunity to smoke a cigar. Say you're having a drink in a bar or
Right, you're inside.
at your house or whatever, and you're not lighting up a cigar. I like to try it both ways, right? Same thing, cigar without drinking. Any spirits, I want to like actually give the cigar its fair shot as far as what I think of it. Same thing with the spirits. It's a good thing about doing this podcast because we get some of these very unique bottles. And like the last one that Anne gifted us, which was the 10-year celebration bottle.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that you gifted it?
No, it's fine. It's a 6-year age. Oh, sorry.
It's a 10-year anniversary,
Yeah.
6-year
Like,
bottle.
Somebody's
What's it
going to
aged
chat here
10
that you need to
years?
talk
It's
into
a
the microwave. Sorry.
The
microwave.
Regardless, it was a very,
I'm a
very
drink in
special
and cigars.
It's a very special
We
gift.
just started.
However,
Smoke cigars.
we made sure to pull that bottle.
Christ.
We actually talked about it. We want to, it's
It
gonna
only
be good.
gets better, I promise.
We pulled the bottle off the table. My point was, like, for example, I may not have another opportunity to have that bottle. Eric Espinosa, who makes our BS Silver, makes a great line of cigars as well. He brought Old Rip Van Winkle 10 as a gift, right? People have those bottles. Like, they're out there in the wild, and I know a lot of friends that have, like, say, that particular bottle, but we drank that whole bottle that night with cigars, and I'm not
So
gonna
now
go
you don't know.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna. I mean, if I go over to like a good friend that has just a ridiculous collection, I'm like, hey, can I actually have a sample of that? Because I had it. We drank. I probably
Yes,
drank half the
Ian.
bottle.
Yes.
But it's
Or I
different
go
year
to
to
McClelland's
year,
pub
and it's
and,
different
all
year
right,
to
here we
year,
go.
though. I mean, every release is completely
Right.
different than the
No,
year
right.
before.
So to answer your question, those are those scenarios where I can't go back
Yeah.
and try a bottle that, say, on the podcast we featured it,
Right.
and we were smoking cigars, and then we finished the bottle. That's
in
it.
general, in your private life, you go to the liquor store, you buy a bottle, you come home. How do you address that bottle? Do you pour a drink first and try it, and then
Depends.
maybe go outside and light
have
your
methods.
cigar?
I don't really have methods.
Just whatever you feel like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Roll with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the same thing with like cigars. Like, I don't know about you guys. Do you guys drink whiskey or drink in general every day?
I do.
You do,
Ooh.
I do.
Amy?
It's a question of how much
Yeah.
Okay.
or how
You
little.
do?
Yeah.
Anne?
Not every day.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus, Ann.
I'm
We always
sorry.
knew.
There's
We
days
always
that I
knew
don't.
that she
So-
had more purity than the two of us.
it's-
We always
it's-
knew this.
It's not that. I was telling this.
Listen, I
before
really love
we
what I
started.
do, and I feel like, you know,
Oh,
when you get to
it's
take your work
great.
home with you and really enjoy it, then you're in the right industry.
It is
Perfect.
great. So I have a husband who doesn't drink.
At
Right.
all?
And so that would make me drinking alone, that sort of thing.
Well,
so
Don't you have
I'm
like a pet or something?
I have kids,
Do you have a pet?
I do have a pet.
There
and
you
you
go.
have a
No,
kid, so
there
you're
you
not
go.
alone. But
well, hopefully he's not drinking. But
so I
But
have
you're not
kids,
alone while drinking is the point.
and I'm
No,
drinking
this is
like
true.
two
This is
when they're
true.
Is that frowned
home.
upon?
When they're
Yeah.
not home, I may
Yeah.
drink more, but it's kind of it's kind of part of who I am, and part of my, especially during these days, it's kind of part of my just calm down and enjoy. This is what I do for a living. It's part of who I am. It's something that I love, and I do it in a way that I'm safe and I'm home, and I'm literally, if my kids are home, there's no more than 2 drinks in that entire time. If my kids aren't home, then I can do whatever the heck I want. And I almost said it, but I didn't. I told you
What
I
were you
wouldn't
gonna
curse.
say?
I promised you I wouldn't curse.
Well, we'll see if that
There might be work people on, so
Would
I
it help
will-
if I curse more? Or
but the one that I was gonna
We
say
put
is
an
the big one.
explicit.
So
what? Fuck?
you said it, not me. Yes. So I can do whatever the heck I want when my kids are not home. I'm
we
home
put
and
the
I'm
little
safe.
E on the actual
Right.
podcast.
Someone pour her more.
Yeah, right. Somebody had to bring it up. It was eventually going to come up
But
as a
to
topic.
that point, I don't smoke cigars every day, and there are a lot of my peers, and there's people that listen. There's coworkers that literally don't miss a day smoking. If it's my day off, I'm not in the shop, and I'm busy. I'm not. There was a time where it's like as soon as I hit my car, it's like I'm lighting up a cigar, But now anymore, I'm like an old lady, and I don't really go outside my 5-mile bubble. So, like, if I'm just going to work or whatever, if I'm going to the gym or back and forth, like, I'm not going to light up a new cigar. And there are days where I don't smoke, and I don't really. That's one of the things I'll tell people when they ask, like, are you addicted? Is it the same thing as cigarettes? No, I'm more addicted to the
experience.
The experience, like
Right.
sitting down, giving myself time, or just it's more. There's a little bit of that oral fixation, but it's more of the enjoyment of the activities that are going along with smoking a cigar, as opposed to me waking up and being like, man, it's almost like 2:00 in the afternoon. I haven't smoked yet. Like, this is ridiculous. It's a wasted day. But I know a lot of people that by 2:00 they're on their third cigar, if not more.
I have loved in the past. Like I said, I quit smoking cigarettes, so I try to stay away from smoking cigars. I
Right.
clearly Juul, but
I'm the first Jewel
really
on the podcast.
Hey!
Ryan used to have
Ryan?
Dude, it's constant. I swear I have more nicotine since I quit smoking
breaking
cigarettes
that
because I
glass
can do this
ceiling
pretty
right
much
there.
wherever. But I have always enjoyed smoking a cigar. It's been so long since I've done it. I didn't realize how much it affected my palate. With drinking whiskey in particular, because when you're drinking other spirits, it's not my wheelhouse to talk about a whole lot of other things because this is my thing. But yeah, it's just very different. It's very different.
What flavor Jewel is that?
Virginia tobacco.
Okay, so a little sweeter.
So there's a classic tobacco
Right.
and Virginia tobacco, and like you were talking about putting out cigars
Yeah.
and relighting them. To me, the classic tobacco tastes like putting out a cigarette
Yeah,
and then relighting it.
I've heard it's more bitter.
It tastes like a dirty cigarette, in my
It's
opinion.
a heck of a plug for Jewel.
I really wanted her to say
know-
like cotton candy.
You what?
I really wanted her to say like cotton
They
candy.
had to
No.
take away those
So
flavors.
I
Oh.
don't know that they even had
Why?
that
No, they
far
didn't have
of.
that. But like melon and
Right,
we
right.
sold them at one
The
point. and then
mango and
Yeah.
yeah.
They
So
took it
the
away.
Virginia tobacco tastes more like an actual like real cigarette tobacco
Yeah.
flavor.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, because it doesn't matter. But I've smoked probably 12 cigarettes since I say I quit smoking
Sure.
on the porch with the neighbor, or a little too many drinks at a cookout or whatever, and they taste like shit.
Right.
Like they taste like shit.
I don't think anyone really says most cigarettes taste good.
But when I
in
was
my
a full time
opinion.
smoker,
Yeah.
like it was normal, it was
Right,
natural.
you're used to
know?
the flavor.
Smoking a cigar, however, now after not smoking cigarettes forever,
You
I am
switched back to
enjoying
Juul.
the
Oh.
taste. But I mean, I'm still gonna do this more. It's
Fair.
my thing.
Yeah. Everyone needs
But I'm
their things.
enjoying it. I also don't want to get myself back into a combustible habit. Combustible tobacco habit.
But juuling, you can't fall asleep and burn down your family's
that is
house.
true, and I can fall
No.
asleep with it in my
There's
hand
some
because I have many times.
They
Is
added
that-
things to cigarettes so you can't do that.
Steve,
That's
is that
what
why
it
you
is.
put us in the garage?
You're right.
What?
Less likely to burn down the house. Is that why you put us in the
Less
garage?
likely because
Right.
we have a propane heater sitting right there.
It's cold.
There's a fan.
It's cold in here.
There's a fan? It's not even on.
It doesn't change your palate, or it does.
I don't know because I do it all the time.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
So that's actually an interesting point, in my opinion, with this as we're doing these pairings. And it is rarely on this podcast. It's rare that we plan the pairing. Like there's like, oh, this is it. Like we have to
Right.
do this bottle with this cigar. It's more of, hey, what cigar are we doing? Or what bottle are we doing? And they're like, what do you think would maybe pair well? And other times we go into it completely blind because we don't know much about like I've got a bourbon on the shelf that someone said it's not available in Ohio, and I just know the notes from what I was told. And we're going to feature it on the podcast, but knowing the notes and
Is
reading
it that
reviews,
one in the front?
Yeah.
I have heard so much about that
Have you?
in the last, like out of nowhere.
Wheel horse and the still.
Yeah, one behind is called Still Austin, and that's
Okay.
a
I haven't heard
Texas
about that one.
distillery.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, none of so there. I have a contact, and I'm not going to take away time because we've had some great guests from this contact that does the kind of PR and marketing for a lot of these smaller distilleries, and so this is part of it. He's like he knows that we have viewers outside of Ohio, but at the same time, we have a lot of viewers in the Ohio area. So it's something that he's like, hey, I can send you, and we're very very I guess thankful.
Pass me that again.
The fact that
Why are they not in Ohio? Just
the only
curious.
thing, and
Do
we
we
can always
know?
find out
Yeah.
when we talk to some of the distillers. We talked to Greg Snyder, If you know that name, he was with Chicken Cock Whiskey, but he was with Wild Turkey for 10 years also.
We have a viewer tonight drinking some chicken cock.
Yeah, Chicken Cock, yeah, because they got it after we featured it.
Ooh.
And it's a good, Greg Snyder. He's got 42 years in the industry. Great guest. But the point is that it's the same thing that you run into with the state of Ohio. It's different to get it in here. It's more of a call it a hassle, but there's more paperwork. Cigars the same way. The state of Ohio treats some of these industries much differently than other states. So it's a lot of the time, from what we're hearing from some of these distilleries and some of the people behind the brands, is that they just are like, we're working on it. We're not in Ohio yet.
So,
and they may not have a distributor
sure
that has picked them up yet.
Yeah,
because they're too small, right?
Yeah.
So, first thing I wanted to say is I love that you're supporting the independent distilleries and trying to help with that, especially in this day and age and what's going on.
Absolutely.
There's a huge fear of what's going to happen to these independents that have been challenged so much financially with the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
So I love that you're doing that. The second thing I was going to say is that you are, opening up to just whoever wants to talk, and with validity, of course, but whoever wants to talk and
sometimes
say,
without, by the way. You haven't watched many of these.
Well, a few. I watched a few, but I love that you're supporting the industry and the community from your side of it. Being, a cigar guy. I've done lots of tastings over the years where I paired with another cigar shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still have the guy's phone number. We run into each other here and there. It's lovely for the industries to collaborate across lines. And what we can do right now is have whiskey and beer tastings on a patio, socially distancing until it gets too cold.
Right.
So it's
and that's what we'll probably talk a bit more in part 2 about how this weather change is going to affect the Midwest. But I mean, the thing is also Ohio is a different type of state also, where doing this like in the garage as opposed to, we can't go to say McClelland's pub and light up a cigar inside.
Right.
You can't do unless you have a good day on a patio or a separate venue.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
feel
but
like
you
we
also-
shut down at 10 now. That's a whole lot more cigar time.
But you also
That's right.
can't. You also can't bring a bottle, and we also have
Correct.
to show that we're
Correct.
paying for every single drink one way or
Absolutely.
another.
Absolutely. So it's difficult to do in
Which
Ohio.
it is what it is.
It's state by state. The spirit industry as well as the tobacco industry. It's all state by state, and a lot of it has to do, from my understanding, is just the way that it's lined up through the legislation. But also, it typically comes down to, in my opinion, money. It comes down to taxes, and every state operates differently. I don't know how it is with whiskey and the spirit side of it, but like with us, cigars are taxed differently in each state, and are also taxed differently than cigarettes.
Correct.
So I mean, there's a lot of
In our
breakdown
industry
there.
as well.
Yeah. So it's difficult to do. So that you're right. It's nice to be able to do this stuff, because when it comes down to it, most of the viewers, they're either bourbon drinkers or whiskey drinkers. They're cigar smokers. They're both. Some people view and listen on the audio that aren't either. They don't smoke or drink whiskey. They just, I don't know.
They like to
That
hear
would
your
be
voice, dude.
boring.
They like to hear your voice.
They don't like to hear.
They tune in for the voice.
They like to hear my voice, but they don't like to necessarily what I have to say. That's the difference there. Everyone's like, "Why aren't you on the radio? You should have a radio show." It's like, because I don't have much to say.
Do you ever get like really mean comments?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Not towards me, typically. Sometimes towards me, but not very often.
No,
No.
I just wondered.
We get feedback. We get some. So the nice thing about this, so if you guys are listening on the audio only and not watching live, or you're not able to tune in on Wednesday nights, this is nice what we have here, as you see, like the comments scrolling through, as Kristin brought up some, Amy's been commenting as well. This is where sometimes we get some people going back and forth, and it's kind of like, all right, children, like, be nice.
Yeah.
Wait, I got brought up. I haven't been watching my phone.
No, you brought up a comment.
Oh, okay.
You were there for that.
Yes, I
was
mentioned
you.
it on the podcast. I thought you meant that somebody commented about me. I was like, wait,
No.
I didn't see that. What did I do wrong?
It was all negative feedback.
So mean.
They hate
so
me.
Mean.
No, like we're not. I don't think we're big enough at this point. There's some podcasts out there that you look at some of the reviews, and even out of like a 4 point. It's like Yelp reviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have like a 4.8, and it's like you're scrolling through, and it's like, oh, this is the most amazing thing, and then like the next one is like, this was the worst fucking place I've ever been
all of my
to.
negatives are like
About
the
you.
short, angry blonde.
Oh
Those are the
man.
All of them.
This just brought a segue to one of the things
You
that I
should
just wanted to
frame
mention.
those.
So, in our industry, it takes an assertive person in sales, right? It's a
Right.
personality type. So, if you're a woman and you're assertive, what are you?
Wait, that's for 2. We gotta save that for 2.
We gotta
Okay, I'll
Part
save it
two.
for
Too
2.
good.
Yes, you so
Put it on the
Too
back
good.
burner then.
we got Eric Black. We got Eric Black on here, and he says Steve needs to ask a question. Let the ladies talk. The thing was, Eric, is that they were asking me about the cigars.
We're interviewing.
We wanted to hear
so that's
him.
part 1.
Yeah.
So trust me, this is like I said. When I do this, that's on the screen. Is what you're gonna see there.
Oh,
Basically,
Lord.
you guys, yeah. So that's typically what's gonna happen. Ryan Jones says 4-star podcast here. Ryan, come on. He's the one. Ryan's the one in Illinois that's asking if Watershed's out there.
We are.
And it
He's
is.
just jealous he doesn't
Yes.
have any Watershed. Don't
Facebook
hate
message
Ryan.
me.
I don't think that he knows that you can do 5 stars. Is my opinion of that.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, this is the time. All right, so let's. All right, so Eric is out there saying that need to ask some questions. So this is where we're gonna do the rating time, whiskey, and then the cigar, and then the pairing. So this is out of 10, ladies, that you're gonna
I gotta
give
light
10.
my cigar back up.
You need to light the cigar back
I
up.
know.
Got the lighter over
Yeah,
there.
you got your thing.
This is.
You guys keep talking.
Go ahead. So
Do your
yeah,
rating.
Amy, let's start with you.
Oh
Just
boy.
squeeze that.
Okay.
There you go. So out of 10, 10 being the highest, the whiskey first, and then rate out of 10 the cigar, and then rate the pairing out of 10 as well. So 3 different ratings.
Ooh, okay. You know I love the whiskey.
Yes.
You know I do. And I think, so, 10, obviously. And I actually really,
Obviously.
I really like,
I'm
I
gonna
really
give
like
some
the
of whiskey
cigar.
flavor rating if I
You
could.
I
Please.
think you picked a really good one to complement pretty much anything. You were right when you
Yeah.
said a good medium. And it will work with all 3 of these. I think that this was definitely one that I would pick up. I think that it's.
What are you rating it?
I'm gonna rate it like a 9. I think it's
9.
yeah. I think it's
Okay.
pretty high. I think that it's easy enough to enjoy with anything, but it has enough character to really entertain you through the entire cigar.
Yeah.
I think it was a good pick, especially for tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Good.
Good pick.
And then the pairing?
Oh no, I think the pairing's great because I mean it'll match with all 3 of these.
Okay.
There's the spice that hits really quick with these. That's gonna complement the Nocino really well, and the regular Watershed too. I think is such a smooth drinker that
It is easy drinking.
the
sure,
finish is very mellow with this, and I think that all 3 of these would be different parts of. I don't know, the smoke here, I guess. It would complement all 3 of the things that Anne brought.
All right. Perfect. Kristin?
So, I'm not really sure how to rate a cigar.
Out of 10. 10 being the highest.
So this is completely opinion based.
That's what a
opinion
rating
based,
is.
and it's no, not necessarily.
Just give them a good
Uh,
Yelp
you-
review.
I-
Give them
Go
a good
through
Yelp
the
review.
WSET level 2 spirits training. It is not opinion based. It is
Well, how do you
it is
like
different.
it?
How do I like it? I will
Having
give you
having
my
not had a
opinion.
cigar for a really long time,
I
how does
have
it
not
feel?
had a cigar in years, like I said. I think this is very approachable, incredibly smooth. It's not overpowering anything whatsoever. As far as pairing with this bourbon, with its pronounced flavors, which I love about this whiskey, this doesn't overpower this. This has enough so that when I'm having a drink of it, I can enjoy this
Right.
without it being dimmed or diminished by what I've smoked and what this has done to my palate.
Okay.
So I think they stand up well together.
Oh,
So
we,
no numbers.
Oh, number.
Cigar.
The number on the cigar.
Out of 10.
these comments because they have a lot of questions about Watershed.
For my taste, I would put it at an 8. I would
Okay.
definitely buy this again.
Okay. And the whiskey.
The whiskey I would probably put at a 9. Probably not something I would drink every day, but for an occasion, for sure. Nice mosquito on your shoulder there,
Got
by
it.
the way. Okay.
Mosquitoes.
It was one of the giant ones.
And then out of 10, the pairing.
The pairing I would definitely put at 8.5.
Okay.
I would for sure.
Thank you, Ryan,
With my
for
limited
for
cigar
redeeming yourself
experience.
there, Ryan. Thank you very much for redeeming that 5-star. Thanks.
Yes,
So-
Ryan Jones did say 5. Always a 5. Anne, how about you?
This is the best cigar I have had since the last time.
Is it the first cigar since the last time?
It is the second cigar that I've had in my life, the first time being the last time I was on your podcast. And it's been amazing.
Neck and neck.
You can tell by how much you smoked of it.
I love it. I'm trying not to look awkward. So
You're doing just fine.
there we go. There we go.
So,
I'm gonna give it a 9
9, there it is.
because
Okay.
it's been great.
Yes.
You know, like I didn't cough. It tastes great. It really does. Like the advice about like actually bring it in like whiskey and roll it around in your mouth. It's so great.
Yeah.
It is great.
And the whiskey.
Well, I mean that's gonna be a 10.
You got.
I actually.
Do you rate all Watershed products a 10?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
So I used to work for Wild Turkey.
Right.
I love Wild Turkey.
Oh, that's Yeah.
I do.
You
but
also love Watershed.
I do love Watershed. But it doesn't mean that you love every product exactly the same.
No,
And so, you know, you
absolutely.
kind of have your favorites and stuff like that. Our barrel strength 6-year was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one, but I love Nochino. So this has been really fun. I love that we're coming out with barrel strength bourbons right now.
I think you have to anymore.
You know,
In the
you
industry.
absolutely
do.
do.
You have
I
to.
mean,
Innovation is key for now.
that's
for sure.
kind of where we
absolutely.
are. And, you know, so when somebody asks a question about finishing and are you trying to change the flavor or cover up, it's literally just sitting in the distillery and being like, you know, it would be cool. That's
Yeah. It
literally
is. It
how
absolutely
these
is.
things start at a small distillery.
It's kind of how you guys were talking about when Greg was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it were bad, hopefully it wouldn't be a product. But
Unless you had a lot of it, you had to. You
you
didn't
know,
want to waste it, right?
I
I'm
mean,
sure there's something else you
well,
could do with it.
You could. There is such a market right now for sourced bourbon.
Right.
So
Okay.
no, I don't think you have to actually release everything under your name if it's bad. But
Fair.
luckily stuff I mean,
You guys have had a great track record. Someone said it in the comments that you guys are just lighting it up right now. I mean, it's just like Watershed has a great recent track record
It's
for sure.
been-
10 years in,
it's been a fun
it's
year.
a lot of like cool
Yeah.
releases, and now that you're doing these small batches, it is absolutely cool to see that.
I love that we're coming out with so many barrel strength offerings.
Okay,
That's
and the
fun.
pairing out of 10.
Oh, it's a 10. When you
10,
put
yeah,
these
yeah.
two together, it's the whole is greater than the
Coming
sum
from
of
the
its
cigar
parts.
connoisseur.
Yeah.
Love it.
Love it. I like.
The Russian judge.
I like the fact that one of your criteria for the cigar was that you didn't cough.
I didn't cough. No,
that's
it was very smooth.
I'm waiting to see that like in Cigar Aficionado on a review. You know, what I
You'll
mean?
love this
Like,
one. You won't even cough.
Yeah. This one, yeah. You'll minimally cough as you smoke this cigar. Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna give the cigar. I think for all intents and purposes, that's how I do a lot of my ratings. Honestly, is that it is subjective for me. I know there are rating systems that are objective, but even when you get to objective, I don't know about the course you were talking about, but a lot of times out of 100, they're segmented into like, okay, 10 points for this part, 10 points for this, 8 for this,
That
and
kind
it
of
adds
thing.
up to
sort
100.
of, yeah.
But it's like even like construction, I feel like unless you have real pinpointed things like does it crack, and it's
Quantitative things that
There
you
are
What?
some
How do you?
of
How
those
do you? Like, what are the
checklist,
categories for
right.
that? How would you rate them? Like, what kind of stuff do you
I
talk
don't know.
about?
I think everyone's a little different, but I mean, you do have obviously appearance, you have construction, you have draw, like as far as that could either come into the smoking experience, and then you have flavor, and then you have complexity and all that stuff.
What's the most important one for you? Like, what is your make it or break it for a cigar?
I've got a couple actually, and that's for this. When I say for all intents and purposes, this is part of their more or less everyday cigars, right? So this is like part of they have like a core line.
This is your wake up cigar. Is what you're saying.
This could be. I'm saying this is something that
This is your before noon cigar, right?
this is in bed. This goes with my morning eggs. No, this is something that it for about $8. This cigar typically, and I know a bit more, not just smoking one, but construction wise, it didn't crack, it didn't plug up, and so construction's great. The flavor is way more than I expect out of some branded Connecticut
Yeah.
cigars. So for that price, for what it is, and it's anyone can smoke it. I think they actually hit it out of the park with this blend for what they intended
Right.
this cigar for. This doesn't necessarily stack up to one of their other brands who owns it, is Davidoff. Like, I don't think you can necessarily slap a Davidoff band on it and then charge $20 for it. They
Right.
probably could, because marketing is part of pricing a lot of times.
Part of everything.
Part of everything. But I'd give the cigar, 8 to 9, somewhere in there, because again, this is an everyday smoke. It's not like, there are better cigars out there, but it gains more close to that 8.5, 9, because it is not really hiding behind. It's not hiding behind an $8 price tag. It's not hiding behind a poorly constructed cigar that you're smoking and you're like, it was all right, but it kind of got bitter at one point or whatever it is. I think it's done really well. The whiskey, this is I've had several Watershed products, and I think we didn't know the MSRP on this, correct, yet?
We do. I think this one, and I guess
We're not
you
gonna
have to
quote
quote
you.
me.
No.
I think it's about $79.99,
Okay.
if I recall.
Ooh, I'd have some more.
I know. Or I took that off my boss's desk.
Thanks, boss.
It's
Thanks,
for
Greg.
us.
Your bosses have met me, by the way, but it was
Yeah.
years and years ago.
I think this bottle is absolutely a 9+.
Yeah.
I think that you guys, again, I'm not, just because you're here, we talk really highly of Watershed based on what we've had on the show and what we've had otherwise. I love the old fashioned. The bourbon's great. It's a great everyday drinker.
What?
But I think so when you're in that $80 price range, that's where you're, a 10. I don't really. 10s are tough.
Well, it's nice too to see something like Watershed that does, have that home feel, because right there in Grandview.
Yep.
And then kind of branch out and do something a little bit different for their 10-year. It's really nice to see that you have a solid product and you can advance it even farther into something that's really going to break into the market and be super unique. And I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah. No, I think that it is, and the pairing. I think I agree with Amy, especially when she was saying I think this cigar would go with it. That was the whole thought process. I mean so the pairing I would give a 9 because
Because you paired it?
No, definitely not. I have definitely missed some pairings over the last 2 to 3 years of doing this podcast. This cigar, I think, to give me kind of a little bit of benefit of the doubt, this would go with a lot. Like I said, this cigar.
Absolutely agree with you on that.
This is a very, very flavorful bottle. Very flavorful bottle. This is unique. It's very flavorful, much like the 6-year age 10th anniversary. Yeah, the one we featured last time. This one, you can still taste the cigar though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes it would get drowned. I think a cigar would just get drowned out by the overall, this is a not a palate killer, but I mean, it's just absolutely it explodes a bit. So yeah, I'd definitely give it a 9 on the pairing. So if you guys are listening on the audio, check out part 2. If you guys are listening on Facebook Live, or if you're watching the video or you're watching on YouTube Live, stay tuned. I do want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank Tinder Box at Easton for the cigar that we have been talking about, the Camacho Connecticut. We were smoking the Robusto size. It is available pretty much everywhere, including Tinder Box at Easton. We also have a great sampler that has one of each of the core blends, along with the Triple Maduro, which is part of their Master Build series as well, which is a great cigar that hopefully we'll feature here soon. Altadis USA, they are a cigar manufacturer with Romeo Julieta, Monte Cristo, H. Upman, along with many others. We have an Upman for the second part, so thank you, Altadis and Josh Bentley, for supporting the podcast the last 2 years. It's been a great sponsor, so thank you very much. Check out their great blends. And also BS Cigar Company. Gold and silver are killing it. We love it. It is local. We're not distributing like Watershed is, because every time we think about distributing cigars, either the FDA gets involved or a virus goes after the world. Stuff gets in the way. So someone asked if we had another blend coming out, and we're like, well, so we were working on it. Now it's extremely passive because we're trying to stay in business. So we're not really going to be dumping a whole lot of money into another project. But BS Cigar Company, and then also Patreon.com. You guys out there listening and watching, you guys have been a huge support over the last year, especially with the supporting it every month. So thank you very much. Patreon.com/BourbonBS Podcast. There's different tiers. You guys can sign up, cancel anytime. There's different tiers and different ways that you can get one of these T-shirts that I'm wearing. and I just ordered 100, I think, T-shirt and mail bags. So I spent a whole like $12 on Amazon for that. So I hope you guys give me purpose to use all 100 of them. I'm just gonna send out like Christmas cards in a T-shirt bag or something like that. Whatever. So, ladies, I always say guys. This is different.
Guys,
Can I say guys? I don't know. It's 2020. You can say whatever you want, right?
we're fine.
Cheers, ladies,
Cheers.
guys,
Cheers.
everyone. Thanks for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Intermission.
But you're still alive.
We're still
Are we
live.
still
We're on
live?
intermission. Yeah. So this is
That
where we
is
do the
Oh,
intermission.
shit.
Mics are still hot. Video's still on.
Okay, so I need to.
Use the restroom.
Yes.
Nate, would you show her where it is, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll smoke more of this cigar.
You're gonna smoke more of this cigar. If anyone out there watching has any questions, especially going into part 2, please put them on the feed.
Hi.
Ian
Good, how are
Anderson, 3X. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. Told you I'm gonna need a couple weeks on that. Yeah, it's not like I'm not a big retail
You
store. I
came
don't
fully
have,
prepared, didn't you?
I did. I
you know,
wasn't-
hundreds of shirts. I don't.
Give me go to the garage and find one for you.
Yeah, no, I've got some in my trunk, but I only did. I'm sorry, I did a couple 3Xs for people that were already signed up, and then I did mostly 2X, XLs, and larges. So I did one small, one medium, 2 mediums, but I can do more. I'm working on it. So
You have an extra large?
yeah, you can either be a patron or give me 20 bucks. What should I charge for it?
What's wrong with you? She's ready to go. What are you doing?
You know, for you 30. How about that? Just because I've known you a long time, Scotty.
Just become a patron.
I don't have any like crazy good stories. Like they're all in the engineering.
No, it'll all be like women in the field.
I know.
Like,
So Eric Black out there says, Steve, are you going to do a pick of a bourbon? I don't know if you're talking about a barrel pick.
A barrel pick.
Ooh.
If we can, so
I'm calling dibs sometimes.
you're calling dibs.
I might know someone.
Well, so that's the thing. I know some groups like Eric, and I need to refer to Eric. He's up in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. He has done it through groups. I know a good friend of mine, Bob Brayer, has also done it through groups.
Yep.
I don't know the logistics of how that works. But I could see us doing a bourbon and BS community bottle pick for sure, or barrel pick for sure. And I think Watershed would be a great place to do it. I just don't know.
Oh, I see you're in there. I see it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we did.
Through McClelland's, can we do through I don't know how it works.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
You can share it. Yeah, I mean that's like
Collaboration?
you can. Totally, like that's exactly how it works. But we got as of October 1st a listing for barrel strength Watershed bourbon.
Whoa.
And did an initial allocation of 10 barrels, and they were claimed in
Immediately.
less than a month.
Oh, I was gonna
And
say.
so, yeah, so 2 of them are actually coming to Ohio, and Eric's group is
Of course, Eric's group's in it. What was it, Cleveland?
Cleveland Bourbon Co-op,
Dude,
Yeah.
he donated a couple bottles to this podcast.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Forester,
right?
Old Forester, yeah.
and then there was
Tomfoolery, Apple.
Yep.
and the apple brandy.
Those have been really good.
All right, so Ryan Jones, one more time, is Watershed only in Ohio? No, Ryan, I love
Yeah.
you. I talked to him on the phone. He's going through.
Where's
some-
Ryan?
He's in Illinois.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, Ryan,
So-
we are actually in the Chicago market specifically. Like
He's
that's,
not in Chicago, but I
Okay.
know he can get up that way.
All right. Well, if he messages me, because I'm on here, I've commented. Find me.
All right,
Send me a
Ryan.
message.
She
reach
makes
out
it
to
happen.
Ann.
Anything you
We'll
need, Ann
figure
makes
it
it happen.
out. Yeah, we actually, and we're in Michigan, Kentucky, Florida, Atlanta.
Someone asked about
Like,
Florida.
yeah, Georgia.
Yeah.
Florida.
DC, Sealbox. Not Tennessee yet.
Ian was asking about Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Florida's probably the easiest, then Louisiana.
No, Florida's been really fun.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're practically
Yeah.
free for all right now.
You
So
can't say that because Florida's bad, right? I don't know.
that's what I'm saying. They're free for all. Like literally anything. You want whiskey? Here's your whiskey. Never mind.
Oh, I thought you meant like they shut down for a weekend during all that.
That's what I'm saying. It's just a
It's
mess.
like a
It's a
3-day
it's a
week,
fucking
and
mess.
they're
The whole,
like,
the whole
Yeah, we're
state's a
opening
mess.
back up, by the way. We'll see you at the football game. All right, cheers, boys. Well, I'm not trying to dive down that rabbit hole right now, but it was hilarious to watch, in my opinion, from my viewpoint. Not to make light of COVID.
No.
It was just super interesting to see the news hit.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And you
like,
see
hey,
beaches.
Florida's shutting down. You're like, oh shit.
And
Like,
then
okay.
just
And
packed
then it's like-
beaches.
and then Monday hit, and they're like, well,
It's
so
over.
Yeah.
it's real nice down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse. I've had some friends that went to Disney. and
Yeah.
they said
Is it
it's
empty?
How are
great.
they open already?
It
Like,
is
how is that even?
obviously slower,
Yeah.
What?
and you have to wear masks the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
No, like, at
obviously,
any point.
it's very highly
have
regulated.
kids
I
and
mean,
stuff.
that place is. I mean, I can only imagine the regulations that they have to deal with down there. So
Wow.
interesting. Dustin's offering some
You know, I
blame, too.
saw that box up there, and I was like, where did that come from?
I'm gonna borrow yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got it in my backpack.
You have a backpack too. It's got some crazy shit in
I will
it too.
totally take you up on that after I get this.
You just hit the black side of it.
Oh,
There you go.
and then it just flips up.
No, it just shoots out that. There you
Oh, there. Look at that.
go. Switch your.
I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying.
First y'all tonight.
By drinking enough, you're gonna hear the
That's
Michigan
right.
accent.
Oh boy.
You may close it at some
Yeah.
point just to keep the heat in.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
All right. So
Not
we
on
still
you,
have
but,
about
you know.
20-some people that are just watching us just through the intermission, which I love.
Oh Lord.
They just want to see if we're
Yeah.
gonna say anything like profane.
This is when the real
or...
stuff comes out.
Give it a minute. Give it a minute.
All right, there's the drinking game. If
I
yeah,
know.
if
Does
Kristin
somebody
drops
win a
the F-bomb, you
prize
gotta
if
take a
they
shot.
guess when I
Ooh, that's a fun game.
like if you can
Line 'em up.
If you can like put the time on that I might do it and you win a prize of some sort.
what
I
is the
don't know.
prize?
I don't know
All right.
because I'm not talking
It's
brands.
all the extra
Oh.
T-shirts you have, Steve.
Can't talk brands.
It's all the extra T-shirts you have.
All the
Send 'em out.
extra features.
I'm not gonna say the big one. I was like, I don't think Buck's really the big one anymore.
No, not in
There's
my mouth.
bigger
Not
ones.
when you have 3 ladies on the podcast.
No.
It's the big one.
We could do big.
Ray Cheshire says I have nothing better to do. That's why he's watching. Thank you, Ray.
Whoa.
Thank
Good to see
you.
you. How is Vietnam, by the way? He's out there. It's the morning.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have anything better to do. It's
We're
the
good.
morning.
He doesn't. He's
I'm sure
retired.
you
It's the
don't.
morning.
To
I
do.
tell you
Sleep? I don't know.
Morning starts with scotch.
Good God, that sounds great.
what. Ray, if you could let us know who's on.
Right?
If you let us know who's on the View today.
Why is Ray there?
Ray, he's a friend. He lived here. He's originally from the UK, and he came to this part of the country in Ohio with L Brands, limited at the time, and then moved out to Hong Kong with that company. And then while out there, started with another company, met his now wife, who is from Vietnam, through said company, and now living the sweet life. Yeah, it's annoying.
We pop in
Very
a
nice.
little.
Cheers to
Let's
you,
pop
Ray.
into a little one. No, little one. Yeah,
Cheers
yeah,
to
yeah,
you.
yeah. Nice. Do you mind, Anna? Can I crack this?
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
I love it.
There's
It's
something
great.
Yeah, and
Some
the
other
walnut.
stuff down
Yep.
Walnut allergy is fine
I'll
too,
take
right?
up the offer for the
Oh,
corner
so-
there, if you don't mind.
I'm
Thank
aware.
you.
So my brother, he's watching, and he just messaged me. He's like, "I'm 10 minutes away. I can get there with an EpiPen within 8 minutes, probably."
I told
Perfect.
you somebody would come
I might
save
need
us.
his number because I haven't
Yeah.
redone my prescription.
So they know that
I
I
can't
never
even prove
get. I never get my own EpiPens, and I always have terrible allergic reactions.
Do you really?
Yeah, so he always has them on hand. Like, so like they come to Christmas and they like have them packed. It's bad.
Like it's in your stocking?
No, like on their person. Like, Amy, we got
On
it.
their person.
Yeah.
Martin Kennedy
I always gotta
commented.
look
Martin's a
at the
good
letter.
dude.
One of your former guests.
He is a former guest?
Yes.
Hopefully we can check in with
I
him and
have
Pat. I haven't heard from Pat in a while either.
multiples.
From Bua.
Do you know
Pat
what
Brown.
letter it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's Bua doing?
The middle end.
I love that you say Pat from
I got you
Bua.
covered. Here, let me give you my card and you can
And
I know.
Burns Pub.
Right. No, everybody's.
Pat Burns
Sign
from
Yeah.
I'll
Bua
forget.
and I guess Burns Pub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, we saw Martin was on.
Yeah, that's
and
what
I
we were
was so
talking about.
excited.
Yeah, Martin's
I was
good
having
people.
That was a
good
good
conversation,
episode.
God, I miss Martin.
love
Martin.
that episode.
Martin.
I did see some of
Yeah.
that.
Martin, are you back in the
Martin
States
and-
yet?
and
Did you
Pat.
come back to us?
Bua.
He
Yeah, he did
commented
Bua.
tonight. I thought he was here.
Well, he's watching it.
Oh, he's online.
Can
Did he
he?
leave?
It's called the World Wide Web. It's all over
I
the
know.
world.
We got the now full.
I didn't know.
Mansplaining. The
I need him to
topic
come
of
back.
our
Topic number one.
tonight,
Led by
Mansplaining.
Steve.
Wait, what? All right, you guys ready? Is everyone happy?
We're ready.
Oh,
Going through your wallet? What's going on?
I'm looking for my business card.
she never misses an opportunity.
See, well,
Post it online. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
All three of you are on the Bourbon and BS community page, correct?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah.
Oh, there he is, Martin. Martin, you back in the States yet?
Martin.
All right, I'm going to get this back on track here. We're going to start part 2.
Make it happen.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast. This is episode 142, part 2. We are continuing the conversation. In part 1, we went over the Camacho, Connecticut, and also Watershed has a barrel strength Nocino barrel. I still can't get the whole name right. You guys have very elaborate
Nocino
names.
finished 4-year bourbon.
Limited
barrel
release.
strength.
Barrel strength.
I don't even know.
Exactly. I need the label so that I can start at the top and just read
I
my
know
way
what
down.
it is.
Left to right, up and down will be good. So yeah, we reviewed those in part 1, and actually everyone seemed to enjoy the pairing. So listen to part 1 if you're on the audio and you just clicked on part 2 and you want to get into this. This is part 2 is women and whiskey and women. I don't know, something like that.
I loved your quote from earlier today.
You like that? It wasn't
Perfect.
really a quote. It was just me talking.
That's a quote.
Which one?
Said Steve.
Said Steve. Yeah. Quote.
So I wasn't sure whether we were calling it women in whiskey or women and whiskey, but either way.
Whiskey and women. And I summarized my said quote on the description. Whiskey and women solve a lot of problems. I said, what is it? 2 of my favorite things. They solve a lot of problems and cause a lot of problems. When I wrote on this, I said something else. They cause as many as they
I actually,
solve.
I read it to the staff today, and I was like, we need to have a sign that says this. I want it hung at the pub.
Michael Scott. No, just put Steve Crane.
Doing it.
Yeah, Steve
Doing
Crane,
it.
2020. Please do that. That'd be amazing.
Can we put?
Oh, we'll make 2 signs. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So before we get into it, thank you, patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. That's you guys out there. Different tiers you guys can sign up for. You get a t-shirt for a different amount of time. Ian, who's our most recent $25 a month patron. Don't have the right size. I'm working on it. Sorry.
You're just expecting a bunch of fat guys.
I should have. Don't say that.
Is he in a medium?
He's a 3X. He's a 3X, and I ordered a couple 3Xs, but they were already spoken for from... Anyways.
Oh, goodness.
I don't want to buy a bunch. I have about 20 t-shirts in my trunk.
Yep.
So that's why I don't want to put the money out there. Anyways.
Right.
But we're going to make it happen. And check it out if you guys aren't a patron already. Also, Tinder Box at Easton for providing the first cigar of the night, the Camacho Connecticut. Also, Altadis USA. I am about to light up the H. Upman Nicaragua, which is blended and manufactured by AJ Fernandez. Killer medium body cigar. We featured it? No? I don't know. I don't know if we featured it, but we've definitely smoked it as a second cigar several times because it is one of our favorites. Check it out as well from Altadis USA. And thank you, Josh Bentley, for all your work on that sponsorship. BS Cigar Company, gold and silver, available right now through... you can contact them directly. You can contact Tinder Box at Easton. You can contact the podcast. We'll make sure that we get it out to you and mail it out if you guys need anything like that. Other than that, yeah, so it is Whiskey and Women. I should have pulled up that quote.
Can we pull it up? I probably
I'm
found
sure
it.
you can pull it
I
up.
think it's out there on the web.
No, because I stole it. I stole it and put it
Yeah.
on mine too because I thought it was good.
Thanks. Every once
You
in a
told
while.
me it was before I left.
Two of my favorite things.
Yes.
2 things that solve as many problems as they cause. Here we go tonight.
Sometimes I'm funny.
There was
So
another
great.
one, too.
Very whimsical.
I think a lot of people can actually relate to that, including women. That is not male
Here we
specific.
are.
No, I'm saying that we all can admit that.
It's true.
Right? Right.
Men probably cause more problems than women, but whiskey is definitely involved in a lot of good things and bad things. But the whole point was, and who was it? Eric that said, ask questions. We've talked about in part 1 that we have 3 different angles of the whiskey industry, if you will. Like the passion's there across the table. I'm just a cigar guy that I enjoy drinking it, and we created a podcast so that I could talk about it, and somehow people are starting to bring whiskey to the garage. So if you guys have a limited budget
this was
for
genius.
booze,
How about
Really
that?
genius.
just
Start
set up
a
a camera.
podcast.
Say, I
Set
love
up a camera,
booze.
and then eventually people will start bringing shit to your house. It worked
You
out
realize
really
that's
well.
the entire reason McClelland's happened,
We
right?
need
Brent was
to
literally
do
like, "This is getting
this.
ridiculous.
I need a
We gotta."
place to drink. I'm going to start a bar.
Right.
Perfect.
It's true.
That would actually be really fun.
Yeah, Brent was like,
teach a business course in college. Oh.
Business or personal finance?
"Yeah,
Yes.
He is just amazing in his insight and his knowledge. He's like he's one of those people that's like a what do they call it? Like a master of none. What do they say? A jack of all trades, master of none.
Trades.
He knows so much about so many things.
Who's this?
Her business partner,
Oh,
Brent.
yeah.
Literally, jack of all trades, master of none. Like, he is so good at everything.
There's
but
a shout out, Brent. There's a shout
But
out.
we
Hey,
love
Brent.
you.
There is not one thing that I would say that would stand out about him because he's so knowledgeable and smart about so many things. For sure.
Well, but the thing is,
Boy.
now who's the face of it?
Well, that was always the plan from the beginning,
It
as
was,
far as I know.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Not to step on
He's
your
like, we need
platform,
to
but-
get you something to do, and you apparently like whiskey a lot. So
Okay, so now I'm
Sounds
gonna
like
have
a late
to.
night conversation if I've ever heard
It's
one.
not just that, but she is so smart and so enthusiastic and so focused and so energetic and such a smart businesswoman. She knows what the consumer is looking for. I got lucky enough. I'm not going to take over the conversation, but I got lucky enough about like I said that like 8 freaking times by now.
all
And
right.
no, I didn't drop it yet, so nobody wins yet.
What'd you say, freaking?
I said freaking. So about 7 years ago, her rep retired. That was my mentor.
oh god, I hate this story.
It's great.
Ugh.
It's great. No, it's great.
will be
So
good
I
story.
walk in to McClelland's pub, and I have a contact name on a piece of paper. And I walk in, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm looking for Amy." She's like, "That's me," and she's all of barely 5 feet tall.
What's your fighting height?
It's
What's
it's
the
like
tail of the tape.
4'11".
it's like 4'11 and a half on like a tall day.
It depends on the shoes she's wearing.
Puff up the hair a little bit.
Yeah,
There
4'11.
you go.
So she was like, "That's me," and I'm like, "Well, I am your Rick Hines replacement." And
He's
there's
he's a
shout out to
legend
Rick.
though. He's a legend.
Yes, 30 years in the industry.
Yeah, he's a
Okay.
legend.
So he retired because we lost a supplier. That's not why he retired. He retired at the same time we lost a supplier. So instead of replacing him, we redistributed our territories.
Okay.
So I had that other side
were
of the
already in the
river.
business.
I was
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and I was on the other side of the river. So I took over Upper Arlington and Dublin on the east side of the river. So I walk in and I say, "This is who I am. I'm your new Rick Hines." And she looks at me. We have to get this right for the camera. She looks at me. I'll even take my glasses off. She goes, "You have some big shoes to fill."
That sounds about right.
From this.
Doesn't,
little
that's
half
weird. That
pint.
doesn't sound like me.
It was totally.
It doesn't
And
sound like
It
me.
was totally her. And I was like, "Oh, I know." I was like, "Trust me, this is my mentor." I'm gonna look at you now because it's helping me focus. I was like, "That was
Scott's
my
like, "Don't-
mentor."
What did I do? Scott's
He
in
is
the
the
audience here, and he's
one.
like, so can you,
He is the one that forwarded my resume when I was ready to move on to a different level in the industry. And literally, I was like, "All right, I got you." Like, he was my mentor. This is, whatever. And you were in business, what, 6 months then?
Probably it was right when we first started, right when we
But-
first opened.
We sat down. Well, we didn't sit down. She sat.
I
I
stood.
sat
I
down.
stood.
She stood because she was behind the bar.
were you on a bar
But so
stool,
we-
though? Yeah.
Me? I totally on the bar
Same
stool.
height.
She was, right? So
Taller
we
bar.
had this conversation about the vision of
Yep. You had a
the
4-step.
venue,
You had a 4-step vision.
and
Of McClelland's?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is one of my super pride stories of one of my accounts, one of my biggest proud stories. So we sat down, we talked. I mean, figuratively sat down, whatever. Anyway, so we had a
Focus.
conversation, right?
Yeah,
Hang
take
on
a
one
drink.
sec.
Perfect. Then I said, fuck.
Not yet. Not yet. So we had this
Fuck you.
conversation. And
That's what I said when
I
she walked in.
saw-
Said, "Where's Amy?"
Stop it. I saw where we wanted to go. I saw where she wanted to go. And my job as literally call me a salesperson, call me a promotions person or marketing person, but I am ultimately a consultant. I pride myself on that. I spent 10 years behind a bar. I've spent 13 on this side, and I know what my businesses need. So we sat down, we stood up, whatever we did, we talked. By the time I left, in 20 minutes later, I was like, "Okay, I got to go. I got people to meet." you know? And she was like, "Oh my God, I love you. We're gonna be great friends. We're gonna do great business."
Well,
And
a lot of reps don't understand what a business needs.
No,
you know?
and it's not just buy this crappy flavored vodka I have to sell. It's not just buy this whiskey because it's new and you're a whiskey bar. It's not that. It's what can I do to help you as a partner so that we can build your business and I can pay my mortgage, all of this together at the same time.
And fast forward 6 years, here we are.
And fast forward 7-ish.
Almost
years,
7,
6.5 years later, and turns out that we ended up being really great friends too, which has a huge benefit in this industry. We need to touch on that some more too.
We won't talk about that.
Oh wow.
Not just us, but in general, like the opportunities for personal relationships and friendships that come from
And
the industry.
and this is delicious. Every time I have it, it's just so good.
Wouldn't
No
it be
chino.
so good?
I did not expect that pouring out of a bottle.
No.
Like, what if you bottled
You gotta
this
talk to the mic. You
with-
gotta talk to the
oh,
mic.
sorry. What if you bottled this like with the bourbon and you did like a bottled Black Manhattan?
It's so
Wouldn't
good.
that be so good?
It would,
like an RTD, like
Well, it would it would be
Altogether,
high proof
we could
because
do that.
everything would
That's
be
really
high
good.
proof.
Did you
it's
guys
so
try
good.
this
It's so
yet?
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my.
Holy
Hashtag industry conversation. But it is so
I do.
good.
Yeah, taste it.
Like the nocino, if you mix it with some rye, you can pour it over ice cream. It's amazing.
Over ice. Does anyone have any ice
No,
cream?
really, you can.
Dip your chicken
Check
fingers
the
in
fridge.
it if you want to do that.
I don't know about chicken fingers.
We'll find out one day.
Pass the nocino.
Yeah.
there is
Right, so the
such a
Chino's going around.
reminiscent
Milkshake. Wait a minute.
note in there
Milkshake.
that I cannot put my
Milkshakes.
finger on.
Yes.
That is
Take credit for that
something
one if that ever hits the
else.
menu.
All right, so Anne, if you would, real quick for part two,
Sure.
give us a quick recap of what the nocino is, because if you're pouring it out, it is.
Ooh.
It's definitely a
Right.
liqueur. I
Yeah.
mean, this is not. I don't know.
So
I don't know what to expect
Yeah.
with that, but
It
when I poured
is-
it in my glass, it poured out like It looked like medicine.
Yeah. Looks like
But
oil.
But it doesn't taste like
no,
medicine.
No.
Delightful.
so-
I wish medicine
good.
tastes like this.
You're familiar with
It does. I
limoncello.
don't think it is.
Limoncello,
Mostly,
yeah.
right? So limoncello is a thing. And just as much as nocino is a thing, we at Watershed didn't invent it. It's actually Ohio black walnuts. Do you want me to get into like actually Charlie coming in and telling? I don't
Yes,
have to
just
go
give a
back.
recap.
Yeah, so there's a when our
You guys-
distillery
your mics
first
are
started.
Still hot, by the way, ladies.
Later.
Text each other instead of.
They can still hear
So
you on the mic
when our distillery first started, there was a physician from Upper Arlington who came in, and our two owners, Greg and Dave, back in the day, people would bring in their own like homemade hooch that they distilled at
Yes.
home, and some of it was really interesting. But this guy would bring in his family's nocino, grandma's recipe from Italy, but he ended up teaching them how to make it. And they sat under a black walnut tree in his backyard in Upper Arlington and poured it over Jenny's ice cream. And they figured he was selling them the recipe. And he's like, no, I just really want somebody to make my grandma's nocino. So,
Yeah.
so to this day, there is a thanks Charlie
got
on the
enough.
back of every bottle.
Love
And
it.
they're actually, we get our walnuts in Ohio from the Ohio Walnut Co-op.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a 2-week window in the middle of the summer where you can actually harvest them because they're still green at that point, and they crush them and put them in our vodka. And
So, do I need to add more nocino to that glass?
No,
or do I
that's
just
good.
pour some
That's
in there?
good.
So how
But
much-
I was
tell me
saying-
when.
okay, that's good.
Okay.
Try that.
I'm going to.
This will be good. Oh, it's so funny because so many people have vermouth at their house and it goes bad. It's supposed to be refrigerated.
It's fucking good.
Yeah. But if you get nocino instead of vermouth, it's shelf stable, it's high proof.
What is the proof on it?
I don't know. Like 70 something.
No,
This
no,
batch
it's
is
not.
like, this is like 50 somewhere. 24.9 is the alcohol. So 50.
Let's get the cap on that because I feel like
Oh.
this is
There
going
you
to
go.
stain the garage if it hits the floor.
It might.
Some dark shit.
So if you, well,
And that's where last time I saw him.
when they're making it in the summer at the distillery, you have to wear like the big heavy gloves because it'll stain your hands black.
Oh yeah, it's dark.
How long does it take to make something like that?
They do it in the summertime, and so if you don't barrel age it, you could release it for December. So that would be enough time because it's steeped in like basically vodka. But then if you barrel age it, you gotta work ahead.
You work ahead,
basically.
Yeah. So Ryan asks, is Nocino like was it Disaronno? Disaronno.
I haven't had that one.
It's like
in
a
a
dessert
while.
whiskey. No, it's different. And Eric Black's out there. He's tuned in, right? So he's
It's a fruit-based spirit.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Not even
It's
in the
not
same
the same.
category.
But it
I
is. It's like it has sweetness. I almost compare
Italian.
it more towards it's like a good when it was by itself, like a port. It's like this is like an after dinner.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about?
The Nocino.
Nocino.
By,
Yeah,
by
I agree
itself,
totally.
it reminded me of, and I always mess this up. There's two different types of mainstream ports, right? The tawny and sherry. Does anyone know?
I do not.
So
Correct.
the three
My 2 weeks and
experts
my
in
company
spirits.
spent a bunch of money for me to take the course, and I do not know the answer to that question.
I usually compare it.
What I can tell you though is Di Serrano is
It's fruit.
it's a fruit-based spirit. It is a liqueur.
Yeah.
High proof. It's not even in the same category.
Has anybody had a Verna? So like
Has anyone what? Sorry.
a Verna, Italian Amaro,
I don't know any of these
Sicilian.
things.
It's
I've
I
heard
usually
of Sicilian.
yeah. So
as a
I
thing.
usually compare it to a Verna, which used to be hard to find. You can get it in Ohio.
Okay.
Wylands
Amaros
has
have
it.
grown hugely
They're
in the last few
huge.
years.
Yeah.
Hugely. Yeah.
And Ryan, he says, didn't mean to drop a ball
I
or
know
ask
that
a
word.
goofy question. No, we want questions on here. This
Yeah.
is what it's all about. So,
Please.
so going back to this was when this was brought up. I'll give a quick recap of I think how this went. I think I posted a picture of the Watershed Old Fashioned that night, and all three of you commented. I think at some point.
Yeah, you were like
not
drunk in
sure.
a chair,
I'm
and you're
not
like,
sure about-
"Hey."
I was super
Right.
drunk. You were drunk in the chair too.
Probably.
chair?
I mean, odds
Yeah.
are good.
I'm not sure about the picture. I commented on the text, which
Okay.
said we're looking for ideas.
There you go.
And I was like, well,
I
I've
honestly
had people say that I should be on a whiskey podcast with some women.
Now you are.
Talk about, I know. Here I
Now
am.
you are. But I
Good thing I took a lift right here and didn't drive my car. Just saying.
we
Trying not to.
having this opportunity, having you three here, we've kind of talked about. We have different angles of the industry, and so we have someone working for the distillery, we have someone working for a distributor, we have someone that owns a bar. We don't necessarily. We've talked about a little bit of the history where you guys all kind of met up.
It's a pub.
We met at a pub called McClelland's.
McClelland's Pub.
We should have you in this.
I mean,
Dublin,
we
Ohio.
ran into each other in a bunch of other places in the same territory,
did.
but we
We
did
did.
actually meet at McClelland.
We became
McClelland's
friends
pub.
at McClelland's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pub.
Yes.
What's the differentiating
Food.
factors of pub?
Food,
and
atmosphere, and
bar?
food.
Okay.
Yeah.
A bar has a connotation that you're there to drink.
Right.
Well,
But
you're,
a
yeah,
pub
yeah.
doesn't.
Wait,
Bullshit.
whoa,
First of
I'm
all,
not
bullshit.
done yet,
You know,
Mister.
you go to a pub to
Mister,
drink.
Mister,
We-
I'm not done yet.
We also have like a
So-
scratch kitchen too, so that
Right.
makes
It's great
sense.
So
food,
you
I'm
go
not saying
to
you
a
don't.
restaurant. Okay, so seriously,
Yes, ma'am.
mansplaining me. Look at you. Just
Well,
kidding.
I'm actually
I know,
I'm actually
I know.
the host.
I know. Mansplaining would not be something that you couldn't do as a host, though. But anyway, so pub
Yes.
is the middle ground of a bar and a restaurant.
Got it.
You can be a bar and have good food, but you're still a bar first.
Right.
You can be a restaurant and serve alcohol, but you're still a restaurant first.
Got it.
You can be a pub,
It's a hybrid.
which encapsulates everything.
I love it.
I do
love it.
too, especially hers.
Absolutely. But so let's get into a little bit of where you guys are at with dealing with this industry in the current state that we're in. I mean, I think this is an easy
Oof.
topic. So, Amy, I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah,
So, how's it going?
not well.
Oh.
Not well. Yeah, it's a tough year. It we were doing so well. You know, like we said
Leading
earlier.
up to it.
Yeah, we were there for 7 years, and we just really worked super hard and just flipped it around, and we were packed every day. I was finally I was like, I'm gonna buy all of the things.
Right.
The money was in, and the people were in, and the food was right, and the staff was great, and then COVID hit, and it we were closed for about 3 months,
Yeah.
and you don't
Completely shut
completely shut down. Yeah, and you
get
don't.
the, was it PPE?
We don't.
Sort of.
Well,
Yeah, let's not get into that.
Yeah, but they don't give you a break on the rent. They don't. I mean,
No, I
you
understand.
can't stop
I understand.
the electric bill, and that just kept coming, and you just take all your reserves, and thank God we had done so well in the beginning. But even like emotionally, I suppose it was really tough to deal with.
Yeah.
I remember that the first week we shut down. We missed St. Patty's Day, and as an Irish pub, that's our day. So we had a Saturday party, but the actual St. Patty's Day, I called the staff, and I'm like, just come up. I'm going to cook a bunch of food because, I was stocked for St. Patty's Day.
Absolutely.
We're going to drink all of it. We tried. And we're
How'd
going to
you
have...
do?
Well, we do well.
Good
I got
deal.
a solid staff. They're really...
Good. Overachievers. That's
Oh,
good.
they are, yep. But we had the St. Patty's Day we've always wanted because we could actually enjoy ourselves. And
I didn't think about that.
yeah,
part of
no, it was a disaster. But the week after that, I went to the pub every day and I kind of sat and just sort of stared at the walls. And my staff, I heard from every single one of them every day for like a month.
Heard from how they checking in.
Yeah, they're like, no, these people just lost their jobs, and they
Right.
were literally just like, how are you?
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized that I had absolutely hired the best people.
Yeah.
I mean, just so supportive, and you're asking me how I am, and you're also not working, So it's been really rough on all of us. So we just tried to make the best of it and fix things and drink everything that was
Where are you at
in.
now, though?
Now is
You guys opened up after 3 months.
Yep.
You said, right?
it's very slow. People are still very scared. We are social distancing. We have a bunch of tables. About half the tables are shut down, so we can't fill them.
Right.
So you're already at half capacity
Correct.
just with the distancing.
You have a patio, but it's not very
It's
large.
not. It's not
correct?
big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have a little, like that was the whole
Right.
thing. It's spring, summer. We can,
Right. Well, and
expand
even
your.
the way we can't expand the patio because we have trucks coming around the
I know.
side. So that was a mess. Yeah. So it'll be a challenge coming into the winter. I think the more comfortable people get, the better that will be. Everybody there is pretty respectful about distancing, wearing masks. It's hard. They're hard to work in. But just to keep it going, every other pub, restaurant, bar owner I talk to, the new goal is to break even, and that's never been the goal before, and that's a
there's
terrifying
no
goal.
There's no time limit there, right?
No,
So
no, I thought
this
for
is
sure.
basically, I mean, we're 9 months in or so.
Yeah,
And so for you guys, you talk about breaking even. I mean, at one point, our cigar shop much the same way, right? I mean, it's
that's the goal. That's crazy.
We literally didn't turn the lights on.
Yeah,
For us, because it is different, right? We weren't 3 months, but it was about 6 to 8 weeks, where it was just Brian, who owns the shop, and myself, and when I've talked about it on the podcast in recent episodes. But I mean, we survived, and now
Yeah.
we're retail. It's not quite the same, and now when we're hitting the colder months where we used to be able to smoke in there, much like
Right.
you guys in the bar industry, it's like, cool, yeah. If you had a good patio that
Right.
you could expand, cool. That Band-Aid is now,
Right.
that needs to be taken off, right?
And-
It's like one of those things, like the Band-Aid's dirty, like it's done. Like this is no
right.
longer
And
good
everybody
going
comes in
into
too, and
winter.
they're like, "Oh, well, you can do to go." Sure, and that worked really well for like the first month.
I love that, by the way, is that leave our pub. Here's 3 cocktails.
Drive safe.
Hey, up
It's
from,
like
up
literally
from 2.
unlocking.
It was 2 at first.
It's literally unlocking your liquor cabinet
Yeah.
when your kids have a sleepover. You're like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm going to bed. You guys now turn the TV off at 11.
But again,
Okay.
unless you have something exclusive, they're not coming to get drinks of any sort. I mean, it's just not enough to.
It's tough to make them feel comfortable as a business owner, right? I mean,
Well, even to like make enough money. I mean, the to-goes, it's okay, but it's not. To-goes are never built to sustain the business.
especially if people talked about that, and I don't know if you guys have thought about that at all, but I've seen like Uber Eats and Grubhub and all that stuff. Great features, right? This is something like it was like add-on for people, and it was all city-based, and now it went to suburbs and all that stuff. But they do take their cut, so it's like
Right.
your side of it. It's not.
The markup on food too is a little bit different.
It is.
And the stuff that people are eating and drinking is totally different. I know how to run a pub pre-COVID, but I don't know how to run a pub
That's
during
most
COVID.
industries, right? I mean, it is. You're
They
absolutely right.
they're eating different things. They don't beer's hard. It's hard to get in. It's hard to sell.
Supply chain is
It's not good.
all fucked up. Yeah.
Had a staff. We'll be busy on a Tuesday afternoon and dead on a Saturday, and then vice versa the next week. It's all over the place, and it's really difficult to try to build a menu and a drink menu and keep all your people employed. It's very different.
And making those menus and changing your business model 6 times in 6 months.
Yeah.
And still trying to be profitable.
Right. And a lot of people are very confused. Oh, you don't have this, this, and this anymore.
I'm sorry, I'm not selling grilled cheese right now.
Right.
Like,
you
I
can't.
can't.
You can't. Why don't you have a happy hour? Well, nobody's working, and nobody's happy. So.
Right. Nobody's showing up on their way home
Nobody's
from
that
work
way.
because they're working from home.
Right.
Happy hour is because people aren't happy. I think that's the definition of it. You're leaving work, right? I mean,
They're still not happy.
no one's fucking happy anymore. And how about you with the distillery? I mean, you guys are obviously doing some killer projects, but I think that's something that you guys are in an industry. Obviously, you know, Amy being a pub and a business owner, you forecast, right? A lot of forecasting.
Oh.
That, to my knowledge,
Yeah, how'd that go?
A lot of
Let me
businesses,
tell
a lot of
you.
businesses, they forecast. They have someone in the business, whether it's the owner or GM or someone. They are forecasting 12 to 18 months, which
Yep.
is
Yeah.
that's the long term.
Yeah.
Besides, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, in 5 years we're going to do this.
Oh,
shit if
yeah,
it goes
yeah, I
well.
know.
But this
Yeah.
is practical forecasting.
Right,
It's 12
right.
to 18 months.
Yeah.
Then you have your people that are doing like the 6 months, the 1 month. They're trying to hit quotas and all this stuff. But you say it's you with the 12 to 18 months. While, by the way, the bottle that we featured has a 4-year age statement. So you talk about forecasting beyond that with your guys' stuff. So I'm loving, like we said, seeing all these small batches becoming available at the distillery. I mean, we had you and Greg on during the quarantine in Ohio.
Yes.
And in a lot of the country and a lot of the world is that we
Live
did the
from my
virtual thing.
garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do forecast at the beginning of the year, and we had an amazing end to last year, and then we had so many key learnings, and we're like, we're gonna do it, and 2020 is gonna be our year.
The first 2
And,
months
oh my
were
gosh,
great.
It was,
Yeah.
and I remember being at our, and Greg actually came into the office one day. He's like, man, this COVID thing, this might be big. And I'm like, no, it's not, whatever. And we had our company Christmas party, which was in, I think, February or so. And he stood up there and he's like, we just, had this great year and we're ready, but we have this reality of COVID coming. And literally it was like from that to a week later, everything shut down.
Yeah.
It happened so fast. And we were a distillery. Most of craft distilleries, most of the sales that they do are out of their bottle shop or with bars and restaurants. It's like the opposite of the big brands. So when bars and restaurants close and you lose the majority of your business.
So you felt a bit of what Amy and McClelland's pub
I
felt as well, right?
So our restaurant still isn't reopened. So
Wow.
craft distillation as a whole is just, these small distilleries, like even beyond us, like we have so many great distilleries right here in Columbus.
Correct.
And it's anything you can do to go in, to buy a bottle, to buy a t-shirt, to like keep them going. Cause
Is your gift shop, is it a gift shop? Is that what you call it?
Yep.
I mean, is it open?
our bottle shop is open.
And that's
so-
where you can sell, like you can get
Yeah.
your, like
Yeah.
I've got hats
Mhm.
hanging. They're great.
So we pivoted to hand sanitizer during the, kind of shutdown.
We did talk about that when we
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
you and Greg on. It was great to see some
Yeah.
companies like yourself
Right.
that really, that was a big shift of gears. You guys explained that extremely
But shifting back too from sanitizer to once things started opening up,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
well. And
like how
when
did
do
that
you
work?
decide to go back, right?
And
Well,
there's a lot that are still doing both.
Yep.
Because
there
this isn't
are.
over.
There are.
Yeah.
Are
So
you doing both, or are you guys back?
we are
full-
not.
full
We're
go?
we're back making spirits. We've been
Right.
back for several months, but that's actually there's been some stories about you can kind of read that in the media where the reason why there was a sanitizer shortage was really just a supply chain issue.
Yeah.
So these distilleries pivoted to make sanitizer, And depending on how much they made, some of them ended up getting stuck with a lot of sanitizer too. So some of them got
because
like the
the
double burn.
Purells, the
Right.
big boys, like you can go on
Yeah.
Amazon now. You don't have to go to it. Like you could find that stuff. Like when
And
toilet paper
as-
started becoming available,
Yeah.
hand sanitizer started becoming available.
Right.
Again.
I don't know. Sanitizer though from a distillery smells way better to me than a regular sanitizer.
It really does.
I had a lot of people
It
in Facebook going, "Oh, this stuff just stinks," and I'm like, "Dude, apparently you don't like spirits because
Yeah.
this smells like heaven to me." Like,
Yeah, we had to tell
wipe it
customers in our
on.
shop is like, don't drink that.
Yeah.
That's real. That's, you've
Don't
heard-
drink it.
You've heard of barrel strength? Like,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's stronger.
But I mean, that's kind of it. Like, you have to sort of like totally pivot what you're doing and how you're going to market. And being a company that was so focused on bars and restaurants and you know.
You guys have always, since you've started though, been always very creative.
Yeah.
I remember when you first opened, I went down and saw Greg with Alex. I went down with Alex and saw Greg, and he was so excited and so passionate about what he was doing,
Yeah.
and had so many ideas that he wanted to put in place. And you know, at least you should feel confident knowing that you have people behind you that constantly want to make that change
Right.
and grow and adapt. So that's gonna keep you where you are through COVID, and a lot of people are having a real hard time with that. So
Yeah.
So if I can say something about Greg and Alex, what year did they open? First of all, because I have to go
And
back.
these are the founders of
Yes,
of
founders
Watershed.
of Watershed.
Greg and Dave, and that was
Greg and
10
Dave, I'm
years
sorry.
ago. And Alex needs to be on. We need to do an Alex podcast.
He's-
oh
oh,
my
jeez.
gosh.
Okay, so
need a bigger
before
table.
the distillery opened, tell me the names of the two men so that I can cite them correctly.
Greg and Dave.
Greg and Dave.
Yep.
So I was at Barcelona doing a Jameson tasting event.
The restaurant, not the city.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I've never
The
been to Spain,
lovely
but I would love
restaurant.
to
I'm just trying to
someday.
keep everyone
Not
on the
right
same-
now,
right.
but
Yeah,
someday.
I would hold off on travel plans at the moment.
And I haven't
Yes.
sold Jameson in years, but like I said, I'm happy to talk about brands I used to sell, but not happy to talk about brands I do sell now, so that they're not, competitive. So anyway, they came up to me at the end, and I was so new, and I knew about the distillery getting started. They hadn't even opened yet. And they were like, "We're Watershed. We're opening this distillery. We're so excited." I hope that you will ask them if they remember being at that Barcelona tasting.
I will.
And we had this conversation tonight about it because I'll never forget their enthusiasm. And they were so supportive. They were like, "Oh, you did such a great job." I'm like, "But you're not even making Irish whiskey. Like, why are you here?" And they're like, "We're trying to learn everything we can.
Yeah.
Like, we want to do this right. And we want to get in contact with anybody that knows anything so that we can learn and put out a great product." And,
Yeah.
I mean, I've never distributed, I've never sold their products, but I'm a super supporter of anything local, and I'm a super supporter of you. When you told me that you were going with this company, I was like, "Yay! What a great place for you to land! What a great place for you to land!"
So I quit my job.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
it was.
right.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you this: Can I
Yeah.
have that the Chino? I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
actually. I need
Wasn't
to get.
that so great?
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Chino and bourbon.
Absolutely
It's really good
ridiculous.
with rye too.
So, yeah, Eric.
I'm still
All
trying.
right,
Oh my gosh.
Eric Black said something here a
good.
while back. He asked about a rye with an Ochino.
Yeah.
He's looking for it. Anyways, I still want to see a rye aged in Ochino.
So do I.
Interesting.
next meeting.
Let me ask you three this. So without diving in, and we've had podcasts recently that I've actually taken the plunge into a lot of the shit that we're dealing with right now. But Kristin, you had talked about someone was asking what is mansplaining, and I'm not asking that
I
question.
saw that too, but I
Don't
was
I-
like,
don't-
I'm not even gonna.
Come on, Ray. I'll teach you when you're older.
Right.
No, I love you, Ray.
I was like, I started typing and then I just backed it out, and I was like, nah, we'll
So
talk about
I
it
don't want
later.
to go down any certain rabbit holes tonight.
No,
What
and I won't
but I
do
will
that too.
say though is that with a lot of the focus right on the political stage, with the country here in the U.S. especially, but just worldwide in general, when we talked about, I mentioned it about do we have three women on? Do we address the fact that we have three women on, or do we just have a quote normal podcast? with what in your industry, in the angles that you're coming from, do you think it's helped or hurt? When you were talking, Kristin, about, and that's when Anne was showing these pictures when she was the
Right.
Captain Morgan girl. Is that what we're going to call it?
Morganette. Let's get this
I mean,
right.
Morganette. But so you
It
have
helps some
this
of us
drive,
get where
you
we
have-
are.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You have this drive. You've gotten to the point, and this is coming from a white middle-aged male.
I love that. Thank you.
No,
I
they
mean,
can see me on camera. They know.
No, seriously, like
Um,
acknowledge it and say that, and that's what matters.
So my thing is, though, thank you. My thing is that with when you ran into this and the position you're in your career and the companies that you're either your owner, your employee, it's does it hurt or help? Like I feel like there were a lot of strides made recently that when the shit hits the fan like it has recently, this year, 2020. All of this stuff, and in your current positions in life and in professional life, I will frame this as I think it helped because the hunger's still there, the drive is still there, and I think that you know, Anne, you coming from being a Morganette to working for Wild Turkey, now Watershed, and Kristin being in this industry, especially in the current role, if you will, for a decade plus. Amy owning a pub.
2 decades plus.
I said plus.
I know I don't
said
look as
plus.
old as I am.
A plus is infinite.
Right, it's okay. You can say I'm
Amy,
50.
you know, owning a pub and being a women in whiskey. Do you think it helped? Do you think that the drive is stronger because of the struggle that you referred to, Kristin, not too long ago, or do you think it's hurt it? Do you think? I mean, where do you guys see? Does it play a factor at all?
So I think I'll make this back story very quick. I had situations, like I had said, about, you know, trying to talk to old white men that ran fine dining
Sure,
restaurants
sure.
who wouldn't listen to me, whatever, that changed. There's been a lot of change. I do my events. I do my whiskey tastings. I have seen more and more women. I was literally like 10 years ago, I was shocked when I saw a woman in the room. I was like, wait, what? Are you here?
And what
I
venue?
did-
What venue?
It
Bourbon
was
dinners.
bourbon dinner.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Or it might have been a Scotch dinner. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a whiskey dinner.
Yeah.
But I saw a woman in the room,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, are you like? Do you like whiskey?"
Sure.
And she was like, "No, I'm just here with my husband."
Right.
And I was like,
Not shocked.
and I was like, "Okay, well." And then that means that I have to work twice as hard to captivate the room
Sure.
because I'm surrounded by a group of men.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just history. And this has nothing to do with any history except for whiskey.
No, it's-
Just so you know, I'm not trying to be any kind of political. It just is what it is. So
I think it translates to a lot of.
it
parts,
can
yeah,
if
yeah.
you all want to take it that way, but my intention here is to talk about women's position in the whiskey
Yeah, so-
industry.
How long ago was that scenario?
Probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
Over the years,
Mm-hmm.
more and more women started showing up.
Okay.
And I would ask again, do you like whiskey? Bourbon, whatever I was doing, Scotch, whatever. And they'd be like, oh, yeah. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, this woman stood up and she was like, oh, I grew up in Kentucky.
There
I
you
grew
go.
up on bourbon. And I was like, yes.
We made it.
But she was not the only woman there either.
Right. Do you think that date that you referred to in the first scenario, you know, like I'm here with my husband. I went, so I'm supporting my husband. I'm here at the whiskey
He
dinner or
just
whatever.
went because he paid her.
I understand, but
Tab.
do you think I think that there's a scenario that she over time may have become a
I don't know.
whiskey drinker. She goes to enough of these. She
I would
sees
hope
enough
so.
she sees enough Kristins, she sees enough Anns, she sees enough
I would hope
Amy's
so.
that all of a sudden she's like, all right, I'll take a sip. That's not bad.
I mean, I would hope so.
Right.
But I can't project on that,
can't, you can't.
10 years ago when I'm meeting a woman that doesn't like whiskey and she's only there, for that reason. But the great part of it that I wanted to get to is that now I go and host an event and there's a good 30-40% of the people in the crowd that are women.
Yeah.
Would you
And
agree
they
too?
are and they are drinking.
And they are there for the purpose.
event.
And I will call them out and I'll be like, hey, ladies, happy to see you. I didn't see this 10 years ago.
And
Okay.
they're typically more knowledgeable.
Well,
And the guys?
I would say they're more interactive.
They're more interested. Like if they're
Like,
there,
more
they're
interactive,
into
they're
it.
learning. I mean,
Right.
history, historically, I mean, with the category, it's been a man's category, and we know this, and I'm not
Totally.
mad about it. I'm not
Yeah.
trying
Sure,
to
yeah,
act
no,
like I'm mad
absolutely.
about it. It just is what it is. But the fact that women have gotten so much more interested in it, it is the most complicated category of spirits,
No kidding.
right? Which is why
More and more now.
I know, which is why I bit on it. So,
So fun though.
when I ran Woody's, fucking forever ago. Oh, I said it. Who got that
All
on
right,
there?
everyone grab a glass and
Damn
take a drink.
it.
Cheers to that.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Kristin.
guys.
Thank you. Yeah. There we go. There we
But
go.
I literally drank Grape Bombs and Miller High
2
Life.
hours in.
Hey, not bad.
That was a good
Not
run.
bad.
Grape Bombs and High Life. And I got my job.
Champagne.
I don't mind a High Life every once in a while.
Who does?
But I went to the Jack Daniel's Distillery 2 years into my position with my new company as a sales rep, and I sat down. I did a proper tasting. I had a tour, and I was like, holy shit, this is completely different than like already being drunk and throwing back a shot of Jack Daniel's at the
Right.
bar. Like, this is whiskey. This is different. I see the entire process. Like,
I think when I'm there too, people are constantly like, you drink this stuff, and then they're like, how did you get into whiskey?
Right.
Is a
It's
pretty
an
common.
experience,
a pretty
and it
common
was,
question.
And
Yeah.
it was so once that happened, I was like, whoa,
I got
completely.
a quick question here. So it's from Nate, who's normally they have a mic in the audience. We have 4 people on.
So you can't just yell at
We
me,
took-
though.
No, he
Nate's
says,
mic.
what do you attribute more women showing up? So to Amy, what your comment and also what you're talking about, Kristen, is like, what do you attribute to that?
What I do attribute to it is it's a category that's grown. It is a category that we're seeing more and more women in serious positions.
Right.
Serious positions.
We got 3 right here.
We are getting listened to and
We judged
taken
you.
seriously, finally.
What?
We
Um,
judged it.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a question to you guys. Does anybody know who Fawn Weaver is?
I do not. Who is
You do.
Fawn Weaver?
Say it.
And
Say who she is.
Fawn Weaver is the owner of Uncle Nearest,
Oh yeah.
the creator of Uncle Nearest,
I
which is
forgot
the
her name.
relaunch.
Right.
Of,
Yes.
yes.
Can you put that on the table? Put it on the table.
Yes.
I have less
So,
in my bottle inside.
It's
So,
they have revived the story
Yes.
of
Yeah.
the birth of the Jack Daniel's brand.
Yes.
Right.
Correct?
yes.
Did you see
Tennessee
that?
whiskey.
I'm not trying to take away from
I
Fawn because
only
I've seen
know
a
about
video with
this
Fawn
because
Yeah.
and also Jeffrey Wright, which I love that actor. Him telling that story, and then Fawn has the
she's
other
amazing.
videos.
So
Yeah.
she also. So here's how the story started. She heard that Uncle Nearest Green was this guy that mentored Jack Daniels.
Correct. Yeah, it's a cool
So
story. It,
it
really
is-
is.
An amazing and real historical story.
And that is the Uncle Nearest 1856 right there. I don't think
Right.
I've had. Was it a white label? Is the other one right? The other.
That's a small
Yeah.
batch, 1884.
I haven't
So-
had that. This is a very. It is very reminiscent of a Jack Daniels. This is a very
Right.
Tennessee
Yeah.
whiskey.
So when you tell the story too, it's also a good link back to women
Yes.
drinking this, and it does kind of show that they are in the industry and they've been in the whiskey industry for a really long time on different levels, and I think that the availability of the products that we have now and the range of products we have obviously we have flavored whiskey, and I hate to say that that's a good in for a lot of women, But it is.
It was obvious.
There's
It was
nothing-
coming.
Yeah.
It was
there's nothing
coming,
wrong with
right?
And a
saying
lot of
that.
them are really, really super. A lot of rum aged and just so many different flavors in whiskey and bourbon, I feel like contribute to the growth for women.
Okay, so you would attribute that to more women coming into
Yeah, I think that
enjoying.
there's so many different places to start where before there was less places to start.
Well, you talk about the history of even whiskeys. I mean, this is not that long ago that's you talk about like the Jack Daniels and stuff like that, and you talk about like Four Roses and how they had sold off to Japanese companies, and because in
Yeah.
was it 60s 70s that they, and I'm going to mess up some of these dates, but they tried to do the lighter ones because brown spirits were
Yeah.
not doing well.
Right.
So I mean, now you have not only so much has changed in the social world, right? The I don't want to say just civil rights, but it's just you have a lot of that even more recently. Like like people are still alive when this shit was not the way it is right now. But then even in the bourbon industry, the whiskey and especially the bourbon, you had scotches, you had that. Those were brown spirits. The bourbons were sold off, and they tried to lighten it up. They tried to appeal to the vodkas. They tried to appeal to the cocktails. Like that's where the old fashioned came in. Like, how do we sell
American
these bottles?
honey.
What was it?
American
Oh,
honey.
Wild
Yeah.
turkey, American honey.
Yes.
I sold wild turkey before you did, ma'am.
You tried
It
to
was-
appeal to
Actually,
the
it
masses.
was
is what I'm saying.
my company
So
used
there's
to
a
good question
represent
here
it,
that I could probably
and then
answer
Pernod
here.
Ricard sold it to
Yes.
Finance Buying Absolute.
There you go.
And now they
What a great
just
idea.
bought. I saw a bottle here earlier to get back on the bourbon trail. Rabbit Hole.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I'm working on getting them on in January, by the way.
So this goes back
And
to
Amy's got a question from the feed here too. By the way.
don't ever say anything negative about another brand because you
Never,
never
ever.
know who's
Never,
gonna own
ever.
what or
Well, that's the thing with competition too. It's
Right.
like Kristin being a distributor,
Yeah.
and then Anne, you are specific. Very specific in what you are promoting at this point, right?
No,
You
when I-
She
talk
still
about
won't
wow.
talk shit about another brand, though. I
Oh.
guarantee
I
it.
don't.
She
See,
knows
no, no.
better.
I don't.
I will. If it's shit, it's shit, and I'll tell
Oh.
you.
But I think you'll also say that
She's a
no.
bar owner. She can.
From this company, this is really good. This is shit.
Correct.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not
so there's a
Watershed.
question that was, how does a bar pub owner try to attract women to their venue? A lot of them are open to a lot of the different drinks that we have, especially being having such a selection with whiskey. We always try to get them on the whiskey. So I try to figure out either a cocktail they'll like. We did some cocktails earlier in the season to kind of drag people who normally drink vodka. Well, we don't do the whiskey sours really. We had a bourbon smash that we made with
It was fantastic.
fresh blackberries
It's still
and mint
fantastic.
and a really solid.
You do any mules?
We
Oh,
we
yeah.
do a ton of mules.
Yeah.
But we did wild turkey as our base for that drink too.
That was so amazing.
It was good. But try to get them. You normally drink vodka. Try this cocktail. You'll love it. It's made with whiskey, and they do. But even as far as a pub, trying to make it female friendly, and I don't want to like compare other places, but what we wear, how we act, who we speak to. If there's a couple that's in, I tend to speak to the woman rather than the man, and sort of feel it out first, just to try to let them know that this is a friendly place for you. The music that we have on, the entire atmosphere is female friendly. The whole thing, yeah. It's obviously if your husband, boyfriend, or whatever is coming in for the whiskey, we want you to be there and have a good time as well. So providing food that,
Including everyone, basically.
yeah,
is what you're
if
saying.
having food that they enjoy, not having just burgers and whatever. Really grasping the entire thing is to kind of get them.
I've seen too a bunch of times in there women come in alone.
They do.
And that was something that when I ran a bar, I really wanted women to feel comfortable
Yeah.
with.
I had a message
If
not
you
that long
can come
ago.
in by yourself and feel comfortable.
Right. I had a message from one of the customers. She just shot me after she was in, and she just said, "Thank you for having a place that I can come in by myself and feel comfortable." And it made me so happy because I feel that when I go out. There's a lot of places that you don't want to go necessarily. And having her acknowledge that, and that's a real thing.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like,
absolutely.
I've achieved that. That's great. But
I'll say this about the pub thing. You chose to be McClelland's pub, right?
Yes.
And So, Kristin was talking about it earlier, and we talked about like pub is like the hybrid
Right.
between a restaurant and a bar, right? I think in America we've utilized pub as either being Irish or English or whatever. It's like a European stylized version of it, right? So I think of like a proper pub.
Hmm.
It is still male dominated.
Yes. Ours is too, weirdly.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is in my opinion, it's fine.
Most
right?
of my
I mean,
staff
it is. I mean, that's
is
okay.
male.
Yeah.
And half the reason I do that too is women like it. But I also try to hire the type of man that can get along with the man as well. So the men can come in, have good conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sexist with this, but I'm going to be. They're attractive enough to where the women enjoy it as well. They're polite.
You don't hire based on that because of laws and stuff.
No, but it's helpful.
It works out if it works out. I don't know where I'm going.
No, but having men in there is good for women too. It makes them feel comfortable. I mean, how many places have you guys worked or been to that they only have a female staff?
Right.
Absolutely.
Women don't
agree
love
with
that.
this.
So you have to
way.
have
Certainly
a
not.
good blend of men in there too that are knowledgeable, can hold a conversation, are polite to the entire group.
Guy's guy.
It's a pub.
It-
It's a pub, not Hooters, correct?
I mean, yeah, and I would love to be on a date and be in a bar where the bartender was a hot guy that talked to me and talked to my date.
Right.
That's absolutely right.
And I would also be just as happy to be in a bar as long as I had good service, not just a big tittied fucking. Damn it! I did it again.
It's
Getting so good.
Just
Everyone
not a
take
big-
drink.
But how many have you been
I
to
mean,
to where
and
that's
and
the
there's
case?
not a lot of places, like a lot of people make their business model. Don't get me wrong. I've said
It
this
works, too.
forever, and I will say it forever. Your best commodity is your bartender.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
your best asset. Because you can drink a Miller Lite anywhere if that's all you want. Why are they
Thank
going to
you.
go there and drink it, especially at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Like, because they like the bartender.
Right.
They
Off that
like
day.
the
I'm
people
off
that the
day, man. I
bartender
don't-
brings
I
in,
gotta
right?
Explain why I'm
So-
drinking Miller Lite at 2 a.m.
But so
You don't have to explain that. But,
But
yes,
so, like, we
absolutely
like to
agree
have,
with
you know, a little more educated bartender,
You get
not
bored
only
at
about the
home, I
product,
don't
but
know.
like current events, and so they can have that conversation. Everybody feels comfortable,
Yeah.
and not that those other places aren't great because they obviously do very well too. But for
On their
us
business model,
and
for
and
sure.
our business model, yeah, that works better.
I think that people buy from people that they like. I mean, that's
Right.
always been the case. I will say that there's also very much a strong validity to sex sells. I mean, we all
Yeah.
know this is how it works. If you've got let's do it from the other angle. If you have a cool female bartender that can relate to the guys, yeah, she looks good,
Right.
right? But she also is talking more to the female,
Yeah.
right?
If I'm
it's
on
like
a
you're-
date, she better talk to me because
You know
I'm the
what I'm
one leaving the tip or telling him
Well,
what
yeah,
to
that's
leave
what
if
I'm
he's
saying,
paying,
like-
which is rare.
But
Pay
these
on
are
the
these are
date.
this is a caliber of this is a caliber of a person in their job, right?
Right.
I think that the failing business model, and we've seen these models fail when we're talking about like Hooters and stuff like that. It's not going as well as it did at one point.
Right.
Now, if you are in the whiskey world, you hire someone to do sales.
Because that's what we're selling. We're selling
At the
whiskey. We're
very
not selling.
least, it's the same thing as a job interview, right? So it's like you don't go in there looking like a slob unless you have a reason. And I hired and fired a lot of people in my last career. And one of the things, I did a lot of first interviews. Now I'm talking about frontline, blue collar. I interviewed a lot of white collar salespeople and management positions. But if you come in and you tell me like, hey man, I really want to apologize. I'm coming from my other job. I didn't have time. The job went over. I'm
Right.
still employed. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm dressed like this is I'm like, cool, second interview, I want you to come back in and
Right.
I want you to be prepared for it. And if you can't, let's reschedule it because you've already shown me a little bit in the first interview that I asked you for a second. I think that shows a lot that whether you're male, female,
It's
and I think
presentation.
that's what I look at though on the other side of it.
You're gonna
Again,
want
being a white middle-aged male, is that I'm not looking at it as, yes, it's great to have a cute bartender female, but I am blown away more from a male or a female that is just a fucking good person.
Yeah.
They want to talk. They don't just ignore you at the bar. They don't just talk to who they think they're going to get a good tip from. you're an attractive male and all you're doing is talking to the females. You're an attractive female, all you're doing is talking to the males. That's bullshit to me. I'm still going to tip what I tip because I know a lot of service industry people.
Right.
But what I really enjoy is that when I go in there, the person just wants to.
We're very conscious too about what we have them wear.
And explain that.
Male
It's a
and
big deal.
female.
It's
You
a
know,
big deal.
we can wear shorts in the summer. They can't be too short. The shirts can't be so tight. They can't be super low. The guys have to look presentable as well. They have to be more of a clean cut. Just the whole thing is just a welcoming presentation
Right.
and not off-putting in any kind of way.
That's any job.
Yeah,
It
That's
absolutely.
literally
is
any
any
job.
But
Absolutely.
there are some places too where the look is the smaller the clothes the better.
Encouraging.
But-
They heard
Encouraging
sex
that.
sells, and they're like, "Cool, that's our business model."
Well,
Like,
it
But,
works.
wow,
but
Some
whiskey
places
sells
don't.
too.
Long-term.
So as long as they know about whiskey,
What'd you say?
whiskey sells too. So as long as they know about the whiskey,
I was gonna
places,
say,
though.
do you think sex is totally selling in the whiskey industry? Because I'm thinking
Not in
about-
the
about
whiskey
so.
industry,
I'm
but
thinking
in
about
the
Jimmy
bar
Russell
industry in general, I
and
believe
Fred
it still
No.
is.
What'd you say, Ann?
I said I'm thinking about Jimmy Russell and Fred No, and they are the nicest guys ever. But I'm not thinking about.
right?
Well, they're not.
No.
They're old.
I think in the
I
whiskey
mean-
world, it is how much you know. It's can you
It
give,
is.
And
No,
I
no.
agree with that.
can you
I
give a good
totally agree with that.
recommendation? Can you understand a flavor
Yeah.
profile and find something else that would appeal to them?
I really feel
And-
like authenticity has become like the currency.
And
Yeah.
I
Yes,
love that you
that's a
said
great
that.
point.
I love that you both said what you said because that brings us back to why we're here. The whole point was about women being in this industry and pushing that projective, you know, like because when my territory changed 7 years ago, I touched on this before, and I'll make it very quick because I don't want to dominate the conversation. But I went into an account, like this was the same time I took over Amy's account.
Yeah.
I went into an account that is a white tablecloth. I will not say what or the
Fair.
name because I ended up loving this man, and the man has passed away. But I went into this white tablecloth account, and he would not talk to me. The person that called on him before me had been in the industry for 30 years. He was an old white man.
Now, was
And
it
he'd
because
been there forever.
in your mind? Is it because you were a
Totally.
woman, or is it because
Totally.
you're the new rep?
Either or. I mean, it took me 2 years, and I was like,
I know some cigar reps. The reason I asked that, I know some cigar reps, and you're talking about, you might have an older, it
and
might be an age
I even
thing, but
addressed
like,
that. I
let's-
was like, I understand that Rick was your guy for all these years. I understand
Yeah.
that, but I'm here now, and I have something to offer, you know.
I think
And
that
he
there
just
is a
wouldn't
bigger
and wouldn't and
struggle
wouldn't.
with it, but I also will acknowledge the fact
It does
that I
have
know
to do-
plenty of salespeople that
Right.
have walked in, and they're like, you know what, I've dealt with this person for this many years.
Right. Well, he retired, so now I'm yours,
And
and,
that's
is
the
what you
statement.
got. So right. So it came to a point where I had a huge program on a $300 bottle of scotch, and I mean, I had,
Cheers,
I
Amy.
had, yay.
It's tall. It's a small.
Hey,
It's
blend
you know
can.
what
Do you want one of these too?
Absolutely want to.
We're bartending here.
So I
Bourbon and
walked
no
in.
Chino.
I'm over the challenge.
After
so.
trying to have this conversation many times, many phone calls, and I walked in when I finally got an appointment, and I was like, I need to go into this like
You make me a
talking
drink, by the way,
over.
Well, I got a long
Yeah, I
drive
want
after
the
this.
two,
by the
too.
way.
I want to hear about this
Sorry.
whole thing.
Well, so I walked in, and I had the plan that I was like, I'm not taking this.
Sparkling caps on.
Yay!
Good idea.
I'm like, I'm
Told you
not
that's gonna stay
taking.
in the garage. I know Chino's gonna. Sorry, Kristen.
No, it's fine. Shit happens. Shit happens.
This is part 2 of the podcast. This looks good.
Yeah, well, you would
Gets
expect part 2 to
messy.
get a little bit messier, right?
Mhm.
Thank you,
See
love.
how that is. We can add more.
Does that count as 3? I didn't say it. So I had.
Yeah, I want to throw up. While
Yes, you were right. It was.
I do want to throw up to build your opinion because I want to bring some of the viewers in because we've been talking a little bit, and I love the live one. Bobby Hirschman in Philly, he says, by the way, Hooters totally below most chains do. PJ Wylands as well. I don't know what that is, but he's like, I want good food and a good drink, not a half-naked dimwit.
Yeah.
So there
You can
there
go to a
are
strip club for that, right?
That stereotype, right? So like even like
They might be engineers.
They may be though.
They're never engineers.
So Morganette's might be an engineer.
She was a promo model.
all right.
Who was an engineer?
I planned this intentionally.
My parents
I'm
were
gonna
so
excuse
proud.
myself. I got to use the restroom real quick. So the audience
right,
is
can
in
I-
charge, and I'm
can I-
talking about you guys at home.
Can I finish
You
where
guys
I
do
was
whatever you want.
going
I'm
on
walking
my
out, but
story?
when I come back, I need-
Okay, so
All right.
the white tablecloth restaurant experience.
Keep
So
telling us.
damn it, I just dropped my jolt. Anyway,
you're
so I go in and I'm like, the only way this man is going to listen to me after I've tried so many times is if I talk over his head. He's been in the industry, thank you, way longer than I have. He thinks he knows more than I do because I'm a fucking woman. There's 3. Boom, you win. 3 times. So I go in and I'm talking about, you know, grains and wood and distillation. And he was like, and I'm like, you have, God, I can't say the brand.
No.
I was like, you have so many marks of this line. You need to have this. This is innovative. This is new. It caters to your demographic, your clientele. Like, you need to do this. And honestly, what it came down to is I just had to prove to myself that I was smarter than he was. And the funny thing was, this old white man went, hey, you want to do a dinner for us? What else do you want me to bring in? And I was like, I know. And it sucks that we have to go into a meeting that way. But it worked. It happens less even now than it did then, which was 6 or 7 years ago. I feel like we've come such a long, long way, and I'm super happy that I got to be a part of it on kind of the, I wouldn't call it a grassroots of the whiskey revolution or anything, but in the bourbon thing, like I said, I used to drink Great Bombs in my life, and then I went to Jack Daniels,
And did you get a question?
I got to get in on this in the grassroots part of this bourbon boom happening, and I got to learn with my customers, and we all got to get excited about it at the same time while it was all happening.
We have another question for Anne here.
Yay, good.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
talked enough.
I'm jumping in while Steve's in the back.
Yeah, here
so,
we go.
So Anne, Eric Black asked a question. Ask Anne why we made sure that we
gotta
brought
refresh
a
it, probably.
woman professional bartender to the barrel pick that they did for the
I didn't
Cleveland
see,
Barrel Co-op.
I didn't see that he said a woman. Ask Ann why
That
we
was
made-
his second one. First he said
okay,
professional
okay.
bartender, then he said
Yes.
a woman bartender.
It was a female bartender, and she's
So why did
lovely.
you pick her?
So I didn't pick her, actually. Like, they kind of decided to say, like, who they were going to bring in. But it was really interesting, and it always is, to see how the females in the room taste through the bourbons. And it's generally, there's, like, other things that are picked up, and there's, I mean, she really had a lot to add to the barrel pick process. I loved her tasting notes. I loved her thoughts on it. She is actually the person who kind of leads the program at a whiskey bar up in Cleveland. And so very knowledgeable, has tasted a lot of really great bourbons, tasted through the offerings, gave her feedback. But it's fun. So we did a blind bourbon tasting. Can I say the bar?
Yeah, so I don't have many rules.
Okay.
Do I have any
Well,
rules?
so
we don't have any rules.
this
No
would be-
rules.
I think we're worried
Okay.
about talking about bars.
The rules.
So a few years ago, we did this. This was one of my favorite events ever.
Let's
It was
do
a blind bourbon tasting up at Prohibition in
Love the
Powell.
place. Elton.
Oh my gosh, Elton did it. Elton participated, and so Caitlin, if you know Elton, Caitlin set the room. So
Who's
Caitlin would be Elton's fiance,
Okay.
but not fiance at the time. But either way, so we all came in, and there were 8 bourbons in front of you, poured glasses. Everybody.
Did Caitlin
8.
pick them?
8.
Samples, or are we talking like
You
1
knew-
ounces?
like maybe an ounce or so. You knew what they were because the bottles were in the front of the room, so you could see.
Okay.
It was like 8.
8. Oh yeah.
8.
Yeah.
But nobody.
It's not even like you're not even listening to us women.
I know. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Hey, I'm gonna,
5,
I
6,
gotta go
7,
back
8.
inside.
And-
By the way, I'm gonna go back inside to bail on this. And just a side note, and stay with your train of thought. I just walked inside, and my girlfriend Liz is on the couch, looking sad, with Frank the dog in her lap. And I said, "Why are you sad?"
Why don't we bring her out? I think this
Love
needs
to.
to be a Liz show.
You know what? Oh Jesus!
Oh yes.
Sometimes this. No. But I said, "Why are you looking so sad?" What did me being let's talk about being a typical male. I said, "What did I do?" And she says, "I'm watching Marley and Me." I was like, "What the
Oh, that's
fuck?"
Oh no.
And then I walked back out, and it's the scene. And
Oh.
don't do that.
Oh man.
What were you saying?
Are you okay? Are you all right?
All right.
Are you in the feels with the whiskey?
Either way.
I'm not.
You watch that on a Sunday.
Sunday would be a good day. For
And
Marley.
go ahead. All right,
Yeah,
everyone. Let's get
right.
back to it. I'm sorry.
So
Yeah.
they've got like 8 bourbons. We know what they are. The bottles are in the front of the room, but nobody in the room knows what's what.
Blind taste. That's
And-
really
Leave it
tough.
alone.
If you got a perfect score, you got a free ticket to the next bourbon dinner, which was Fred No. So in it to win it. And it was funny, out of 40 people, there were 2 females in the room, me and this lovely woman named Paula, who ended up being the realtor who is married to the guy who we bought the house from. But anyway, years later. Hilarious, right?
That is a long game to sell a house.
I know. We met them at bourbon dinners at Prohibition. So great. Now we live in their house. But so great.
Was it their house?
It was their house.
Oh, so she was a realtor that's selling their own house.
Years later, we bought their
That's a good
house
long
and
game.
had no idea. Either way, 40 people, 2 women. Who ties for first place?
The 2 women?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's a
We
palate.
failed on a blind
It's a palate.
taste testing here on the podcast not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
I don't know. I think
So
the
did you?
cigars
Who
might.
won? You said you
Nobody
tied.
won because we both got 6 out of 8. We both mixed up 2 of them.
You had to get 8 out of 8 to win the prize.
Yeah. So if you
But you
flip
still
2,
won, but you didn't win the prize.
Yeah. So funny story. At the end, I got down to it was like Woodford, Old Forester. There was a rare breed. There was a Russell's 10-year. There was
Were you working
Buffalo
for Wild Turkey at the
Trace.
time?
yes.
Oh, well,
And
that's-
but here's the
not
here's the
okay.
really scary thing. Like no, when it's blind,
Those are the 2 you missed was
I didn't miss my own. But when it's blind, Eagle Rare was in there.
Yeah.
And Jim Beam Black and Baker's were the 8.
Oh, they have a lot of the same like
feel like everyone got
characteristics though.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're doing it blind, you can't find your baby. Like
No.
literally. And I read through my tasting notes and I remember my tasting notes
Do
for
you have
like,
like a notebook?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
In it
we
to
have
win
notebooks.
it. So Russell's tenure, I get there and I'm like, Okie, not terrible. Like that was my tasting note for Russell's tenure.
Not terrible.
And I remember
Hell of a rating scale.
it was great. It was
An
great.
8 or a 9?
There was another one. I will not say the brand, but I wrote in there nastiness on my tongue.
Put it on the
It was
website.
like so bad. There was another one like Clearasil. It was awful.
You said Clearasil?
Oh, it tasted like Anyway,
Like face wash?
Astringent. Yes.
yeah, very astringent. But
It's effective though. I mean,
True
I will say
story.
that.
It's a good
very
adjective.
true
effective.
story. I tasted
said she's not
tasted
gonna
rare
say the
breed, not knowing it was rare breed, and it was my bourbon I was selling at the time, and my reaction was, "Oh my God, this better be mine because if it's not, I need to find another job like selling this bourbon."
You hoped it wasn't Clearasil.
No, the Clearasil was a different bourbon.
What one was it? I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna allow it.
Not one I sold, but either way, it was so fun. And in the end, I ended up switching out like Buffalo Trace and Jim Beam Black. Who knew?
Wait, what was that?
I switched out in the end, like Buffalo Trace and Jim Beam Black were the 2 that I got wrong. I switched them.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think
Neither of those were Clearasil. The Clearasil one I knew.
you nailed the
Yeah.
Clearasil.
You know what you don't like
I
more
bet
than you know what you
which
do
one.
like.
Yeah, exactly. It's
even.
like as soon as
We'll
I
have to
smelled
find
it, I'm
out
like,
what that
I
is
know
after
that.
we stop recording.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
No, it's great. But bourbon is so fun, and when you get to try it, like I love blind tastings, and especially like women because we do have maybe a little better palate, but it's fun because when it's blind, you take away the veneer of the branding and the marketing and
What
the
you're
you know
supposed
like
to expect.
oh this is one of those allocated ones that I can't find and all this kind of stuff and it's,
Have you ever had a whiskey, a bourbon? Let's get narrow it down here. That you wanted to like more.
Oh, sure.
yeah
All the
And
time.
you were
Hype?
like you were just.
yeah.
All the
I
time.
can't-
When everyone's
all
like
the
looking at you,
time.
and I feel like in the positions you ladies are in this industry, they're like sitting in front of you, like they literally are like, all right, so this is the one.
Yeah.
I can't
I've been
even
telling you
believe
about.
I get to be lucky enough
You're
to taste this.
so
and then I'm like,
excited to try it.
I bought like a
Totally.
$500.
Do you know what this is going for on the secondary?
Right.
Like,
That's the
I
thing.
do.
it's
and I've never
23
had it.
years old.
All right. Well,
I bought a
just
$500
No.
scotch. It was awful.
I'm just
awful.
saying.
Like what?
I bought a $500
No brand
scotch. It was
names.
terrible.
I think when
A
you say
23-year-old
Even sell it, I
bourbon
couldn't.
is a little old
So
for
pappy,
me.
right?
It is.
I'm not saying anything. I
No,
can't. You know I
no.
can't. I mean, it's just 23 years sitting in an oak barrel is a long freaking you don't get to drink
We were all
time.
looking forward to taking a shot.
Wait, or I would also say there's ones that you try and they're so expensive and they're so rare, and so your expectation is up
Right.
here, and you try them and they're good, but
Not
they're
that
not
good.
They're not $300.
All right, let me go to you, Amy. You're,
Three-
You know
Hang on,
that's
I mean, $3,000.
Hang on,
Seriously.
let me, all right, so Amy,
Yeah.
as,
Oh,
as
hi.
a,
Yep.
hey,
Hey.
hey,
Hey.
hi. Have you had
Amy's
that
driving
experience
All the time. Yep.
where,
Yeah.
like, you have either a representative from a distillery,
Again,
or
I can just like, don't love it.
I think we established that earlier. You're like, yeah, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah, no, it's great.
What,
She'll
being
do it for me,
brutally
though, if I
honest?
send
Yeah.
a supplier in. I'll be like, can you just have a quick meeting and say it's great? And she'll be like, okay.
Do you ever look at it? Let me ask you this as a bar owner, and because I in the cigar world we deal with that. Are there any deals, like when you are trying to bring it on in Ohio? You don't have any deals. So like with the cigar industry, we'll have like, all right, on this we have a special like from
We
a
have-
brand, right?
we
So
have,
you
like,
buy
buybacks.
5 boxes, you get 1. Right, so it's like buy 5 get 1 type thing, and you're like, that's from a business decision. It's a pretty good idea. Do you have that as a bar owner in the whiskey world, pub owner? Excuse me.
we don't,
No,
but it
it's
is
illegal
it's-
in Ohio.
it's
Okay.
illegal in
Completely
Ohio, but
illegal.
it's legal in some other markets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the difference.
I think that
between- we had
will
mentioned
drive
about
certain
controlled
things.
states
Yeah.
and open states. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
full
everybody
law,
has to
so it's not
pay for
legal
all
in
of it.
Ohio
So
to do
sometimes
that.
the company will do like a promo and pay for it, but everything's
But
getting
that's
paid.
paying for drinks
Well,
for the
right.
consumers
Yes,
to
yeah.
consume.
So there's the park there,
for
so
sampling.
Right.
but not necessarily.
I mean, we're not paying.
Get the bottle. That's all right.
Okay, sorry.
Can we get
We're
some
not
paper
paying
towels?
them to buy the product.
And
We
the
are
microphone.
paying for drinks.
I can't hear you.
Jesus, I'm sorry. So
fair.
we're not paying for the product. We
Yeah.
are paying for drinks so that the customers that are on the premises can sample the product.
But from your side, so like Watershed, and they really you guys do some great merchandise. Is that an incentive to the consumer, or is it an incentive to like an Amy that it's like, hey, if you bring this on, if we promote it, and you're like, hey, like we'll throw you some swag.
I don't think we have any cool like bar
Well,
swag
you're
right
Watershed,
now.
right?
We're kind
Well,
of small.
when you're you're working for a distributor with big suppliers that have T-shirts. I mean,
know.
sure. Hey, let's throw a party.
For an event,
Buy people
we're
drinks, and
fine.
this is what's legal, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
Buy some drinks, throw out some T-shirts. That is legal. That is what we do.
Right. It's all
But-
swag.
Yeah, and
It's
it,
all
swag.
and it has to be under what is it, $25 or $50 or something.
I don't
even
know.
to the account. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
beer
There's
koozies,
some rules
keychains.
there.
There's a ton of rules there, and it is looked at very closely. And I
love that
can't
Amy
even
just
imagine
wiped
that I
off
just
her
did
phone.
This.
It's
I know.
all right. It's all right. Things happen.
Anybody got a bag of
You think I'm
rice?
not-
We
I'm
can
gonna
throw her
waste it.
phone in because
What's that?
I got very
Waste it.
emphatic
Your
about
phone's
that.
wasted
and
now.
knocked everything over. I'm so sorry. No, you're
I think.
No, I think your phone
everybody-
is a little bit wasted, and I love the fact that you like literally after you wiped it off, you put your finger on it and then you licked it, so you didn't
Hey,
waste
make
a
sure it's
drop. Like
clean.
you're like, oh, I'm
Make
upset
sure
Hey,
about my
bring
phone.
that paper towel out. We can keep going with this.
Let's bring it out. But
I'm so
Amy,
sorry
going back
about
to your
that.
like, if you don't mind, like, I mean, do you
Go for it.
I'm sorry.
Put
I'm
the
gonna
phone over
step
there.
back for a second here.
put the phone? Yeah, put the phone. No, not the water. It's an iPhone. I think it's water.
Do you think any of this shit's backed up?
Knowing you,
Oh,
probably not.
Lord.
Oh, no.
You don't know what iCloud means.
How do you?
No,
How do you
function?
decide-
Don't know.
No. I was going to say, like, how do you decide? Because there's like a
Like
new
what you're
bourbon every
happy-
day.
What are you
How
gonna
do
get
you?
behind?
How
Let
do
me
you
narrow it down.
decide like what to bring in?
What do you? Yeah, exactly. What do you bring into your bar? Stuff you like? Is it stuff you think you should sell? Is
So
that
okay,
one
so
and the
I'll bring
same?
stuff in that I don't respect necessarily, and we all know what that is.
You didn't say that loud enough. They couldn't hear you.
Yeah,
I
good.
couldn't hear you.
There's a couple things that as a people, they're super, but like as a whiskey, they don't make the best whiskey. They're up north, and
Michigan,
no higher.
Canada.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm pretty open about this. That just as a
But
whiskey,
you
don't
won't
love
say
it.
what you're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
So
I forgot
it's
what it
but like
is.
it's like
I forgot what it's like having you on the podcast.
so it's so there's stuff that I don't personally love. We still bring it in, but I don't push it. I don't it just still has to be there. Sometimes it's not out. Like if you need it, it's in the back cabinet. I'll get it for you. But like here it is.
It's in the back. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Put it out for everyone. but
So
you're
like
asking
especially
for it.
the up north, everybody at the pub knows how I feel about it. Like everybody. So we built new cabinets and we had this like dead space you couldn't really see, and that's where all of it went. And that was like a funny joke, right? Like it's funny. So it's there, but like
I
People-
I
people
love
know
the
about it.
special cabinet.
I
don't know.
love
Well, you're
that,
not
like,
in it.
even though
no,
like,
you're front center. You're front center.
you're standing on integrity though.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I have this relationship with this distributor, and I'm gonna go ahead and try this.
Yeah, or
It's
if
not
just
working, so I'm gonna have integrity and not push it on my clientele because we have a reputation.
right. So there's certain things that I do a taste, and I still bring stuff in that isn't my flavor profile, which is fine. That doesn't mean other people don't like it.
Right.
I think your phone's fine.
Yeah, it's just making noises here. I was trying to turn it down so it wouldn't come in then,
Oh,
so I could read the comments.
There's a new
is
iPhone
there
out,
a
by
price
the way.
point
Yeah,
on a bottle?
Yeah. So Eric had a follow-up question for that.
Is there a price point on a
Those
bottle
are trying
that
to
will
read.
make a bar owner say it doesn't make sense for a cocktail? Absolutely.
Of
I would
course.
think,
Yeah, no, there's a respect level too. That even some of the ones that are, I'm going to throw out a brand, and it's Weller, and I think it's a price point. It's a great price point, but I think it's a phenomenal product. So if you want to put it in a cocktail, my answer is no. And sometimes people are like, well, no, but I want to buy it. I'm like, I don't care.
What about Weller Special Reserve?
No, literally any of them. I'm like, no.
Wait, you say no?
Special Reserve
All
is
the
where
time.
No.
Do your bartender? Do you train your staff to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're a bunch of cocky little shits at this point. Like, they don't care either.
You've trained them well.
I know. Yeah, they don't care.
Special Reserve, I would prefer in a cocktail. Antique 107, not so much. A neat and foolproof pick that you had. Lights
Absolutely.
out.
If you want ice with it, or if you want a side of water, we've had people that want put Coke
Do you
with
say
Pappy.
You're gonna put it on the side while you throat punch them, or is it like
At the same time. It's literally at the same time, just so they don't see it coming.
the throat punch or the ice?
Either one.
Right. That makes sense.
Eric, when you're in town next, we need to go see Amy. Yes. You would love Eric.
So Bobby Hirschman is a big Crown guy, and he was the one that was asking questions. He says, Steve Crane, is she talking about my favorite? Yes or no is good enough. And I should have just said yes or no. She's nodding. She
It's
won't
my
say.
dad's favorite, too.
Your dad's favorite?
But as a people, they're
They're
a super people. They're not a...
Bobby Hirschman no longer has your back, and if he ever comes to Columbus, I don't think he's
Oh, Bobby.
No.
or he's gonna come there and just order Crown.
I'll serve it to you.
You're going to have it.
You
You've
always
got
have
a
it.
special
Throw it
spot.
at you, whatever.
Yeah.
I begrudgingly drink
Your
Crown
crown.
Royal every day on my father's
Literally.
birthday.
Just pour it on the ground. Here's your whiskey and here's your crown. I'm gonna pour it on the ground.
Love you,
Here's
Bobby.
a Watershed
Love you, Bobby.
product I really like. You're welcome.
They're kind of not the same.
Yeah, when you come in and they're like, I drink whiskey, and they tell me what they drink sometimes, I'm like, no, you don't.
No.
Here's Bobby's response. Oh, I'm
Oh.
coming. Yeah, we
We're
need to get
doing
Bobby
happy
out
hour.
here. He's in Philly. He's
Okay.
a ways away, but he's been a big supporter of the podcast and
That's great.
Good.
yeah, big supporter.
He's had a lot of really great comments tonight. He's been pretty engaging.
A lot of
He
fun.
wants you in the middle next time. Did you
We
see
love
that
you,
one?
Listen, never mind.
He must like you. I don't know.
I feel
There's
like we
a lot
knew
to like
we were
about
gonna get to
Amy.
this point
I
of
know
the
this.
podcast.
Never mind.
Um,
Can I add
Talk
too
about
that? Can I add too
Botox.
that this drink spilled and there's still this much in it?
Oh
And
my god! I only tipped it.
It's
I
a
did
Glen
not
Cairn.
completely spill it. I only
But that's how-
tipped it.
but that's how much drink was
So I
in
think
it.
that's
I only tipped it.
let's talk about science. I think that
Still good.
part of
Talk
the-
about science.
a little bit of the science behind Glen Cairn glass. This science
Ah,
is
there is that. Yes.
not based on any studies, but I will say there's two benefits of Glen Cairn is that you actually get that, it's like wine glass, right? You want certain wines you want to drink out of certain glasses, yeah, right? Glen Cairn, it has that kind of flute shape, you get that, it focuses it. But I think that, is it Scottish or English that the Glen Cairn came from? Yeah, Scottish.
I was going to say Scottish as well.
And I think the Scottish realized that at some point of the evening, after drinking, it will be knocked over.
Right.
And I think I can't back this up with any actual research. This is
Well,
purely
we just had research
We just did it,
after
yeah.
I knocked her glass over. So.
not a whole lot. I'm
It
not going to
wasn't
knock something else over
intended.
for a
It was
control.
not.
Sample
aspect
size of
this.
one.
I'm pretty sure it's just an added bonus.
No, this is research. So when you knock over a Glen Cairn glass, if you pick it up in time, there will be minimal spillage, and I think that was a smart move by.
And I don't
Amy
think that I
having a
ruined her
Glen Cairn.
phone.
Bobby and I are friends now. Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
I apologize in advance.
Oh Lord. Does anyone else want to take over this podcast?
We did.
All right, all right, let's
The whole idea came up.
here we are. Yeah, because
Great
yeah.
idea.
All right, so here we are. We're 2 hours, and with the intermission, we're
Steve
2:50.
just wants to leave. Let
my
me
house.
out.
I got nowhere to go.
Hey, Marley and me in there.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to go to Marley. Man. I'm pretty sure Frank, my dog, had a tear in his eye and was kissing me more when I walked out.
He is so much more
when I went to
docile
that
now.
Why would you keep watch a movie with a dog about a dog passing? That's not okay. Right?
Frank's traumatized.
Scott, are you okay?
We're on a Wednesday.
On Wednesday. Whiskey Wednesday. All right, so
Yeah.
here we are. Thank you guys for staying with us on this. And I should have never
Thank you,
left
guys.
the garage. I should have held it. Closing remarks. This is where we're at the point of closing remarks.
Oh no.
Who wants to start?
Mm-mm.
You can't point a finger. If you point a finger, I'm going to call on you.
Fine.
All right, Kristin.
You know,
You can't
I
point at
always
someone
was
else.
the
That's the same thing
first
as
to
raising
raise
your
my
hand.
hand in class, but I thought we were going from the line.
There's no.
I
You're the
made
best.
Ann go for
Great part about audio is
bunch
where
of
you
shit.
listen to the podcast, they don't know how we're lined up.
It's fine.
Oh, that's true.
There's that.
Kristin,
Okay, so I'm in the middle.
Closing remarks.
Damn it.
It's a tripod. I
She's
mean,
a
it's,
hand talker. It's fine.
I
He is
am.
a
I'm
dogger.
sorry. So, that woman thing. So anyway, the whole point of us doing this was to talk about the issues and differences of women being in the whiskey industry tonight.
whiskey and
and-
women.
Yes, it was and is. Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it. This is
Absolutely.
the first time I've had a platform to actually talk about this, other
can't wait
than
to have
one-on-one
you back.
conversations.
May I have some of that Nucino? I'm not making
Oh,
a copy.
absolutely.
Oh my God.
All right.
So I also appreciate very much everybody respecting my position as being a distributor
GoPro to
and
it.
nobody mentioning particular brands. I really
You got
appreciate
to do
that.
that, right? So
I mean,
there
there's
is
a
professional
propriety,
side. Yeah,
a
yeah,
propriety level.
Absolutely.
I have the best job in the world, and I work for the best distributor in Ohio. I can guarantee you that. I've seen what's
RNDC
happened.
is a powerhouse. Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen what's happened with my competitors over the last 9 months, and my company has stood behind me.
Good.
Our number one core value, they always said, was family, and I was like, yeah. And then I went through some shit, and they were there. And
for
then
you.
we went through this shit, and they were there.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I definitely want to call out props for my company and my gratitude.
Will there ever be a time for anyone that is listening that they will find out what spirits, especially bourbon or whiskey?
All they have to do is go to OHLQ, but
Okay.
it's not my place to say it. It's not my place as a distributor to call out one supplier over another or one brand over another.
Could you
because
do a laundry list at some
I
point?
can't.
Okay.
I mean, I could if we pre-plan it.
Yeah, that, like Altadis being a sponsor of the podcast. I mean, I
can
don't promote just like
pre-plan
Monte
it,
Cristo.
but I can't say one supplier, this supplier.
Yeah.
I literally represent like
That's
40
fair.
plus suppliers.
She's like half the bourbon in the state of
Yeah.
Ohio.
And I am
like I said,
Yeah.
a powerhouse.
I am some of the most coveted bourbons in
Right.
the state as well. So I don't want my up and comings that are also amazing. I don't want them to feel slighted.
Could we feature someone in your portfolio?
We can feature any of them
and have
as
you
long
on
as
with one of
we
their
do
people.
that. But then we won't. Then we will not reference me as a distributor.
Okay.
We can do
you
that
are a brand
privately.
ambassador or whatever.
We can,
yeah.
well, we can just do it privately. I'm
Okay,
a
got it.
bourbon aficionado. I mean, I would.
I've learned that.
I would say I would like. I would say I would like to clear that with my company though, to make sure that I'm not.
No one's listening anyways.
You know.
it's fine.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Side note.
Sign note.
We'll talk up. We're gonna.
But
a
if I
pin
put it
in
on my
this.
Facebook page and my vice president is my Facebook friend and she sees this and something comes up and it's
Have you,
inappropriate.
listened, have you listened to any of the bourbon podcasts? It's not quite like this. Most.
All
of
right,
them.
well, I'm going to tell you something then, real quick. I'm going to make it real quick.
You're gonna say fuck, I
no
got
brands.
it.
No,
Oh.
I'm not. No brands. Remember when there was a 7-barrel pick of
pointing
no
going on.
brand?
What is happening?
Wait, what?
Because I'm saying something. Remember when there was a 7-barrel state pick of one brand
No,
Okay.
I don't.
during shutdown?
No,
You're being challenged by Anne. Not
I
me.
don't. I don't.
Oh, I know.
No, I can't say yes
Sure
or
do.
no. I can't say yes
Okay,
or no.
some brand.
One
did
brand
7 barrels
For the
The
state
state
of
of
shutdown.
Ohio.
Can Amy say it?
We don't
Let's
know
hang
what
on
it
a second.
is.
Let's explore this. Let's explore it and make sure that we're appropriate.
We're
There was
exploring.
a barrel pick of 7 barrels by the state of Ohio.
Were they good?
They're real good. Yeah,
Okay.
real good. They're gone because they did a
Recently.
bunch. Yeah, recently.
Wait, what? What?
Might have had a blue.
Anyway, so on Facebook, on OHLQ, somebody,
I didn't get it. All I know is I didn't get a
all
bottle.
I know is that on Facebook,
Yeah.
somebody put together an entire like a dossier of
This
A
is getting
dossier.
the
official.
entire
Yay.
thing and
Lord.
all 7 barrel picks and tasting notes on all of them.
A dossier.
These are your closing remarks.
I'm just
This is how you wanna
saying,
finish
I
out
got
your-
to do something that was lovely, and
You were part of
Um,
the barrel picks.
I was not part of the barrel pick,
Okay.
Is that like the
but I was
dossier?
part of the
Can I put it up on screen?
I was not part of the barrel pick, but I was part of the
No one's gonna be.
tasting.
podcast,
Yeah,
okay.
me and one other person, and I actually all the words that you saw on Facebook were mine, so I'm pretty proud of that.
All right, so
So-
closing remarks. We're back to closing remarks. There we
Okay,
go.
I thought those.
Thank you
I
for
thought
giving
those,
us this platform. Sorry,
were
I
the
don't know.
closing
You
remarks.
guys fucking
Put it down this for sure. This ain't happening.
All right,
again.
everyone drink. All right.
There it
Kristin
goes.
said fuck. All right, cheers.
Is that 3 or 4 times?
Ish.
Thank God. Thank God Ann
Well,
brought a lot of whiskey because
I'm
your
really
F
happy
bombs
that
are
I
getting
only
out of
said it
hand.
4
I gotta
times.
I gotta be honest.
Because I didn't eat dinner, even though she told me to.
She did.
Pasta girl. Pasta when you're
Amy.
on the whiskey
Yeah, I know.
podcast.
Anyway,
May I ask
so
for your-
parting words. Thank you so much for having
Sure,
us.
yeah. Yes,
I
you're welcome.
really appreciate having this platform for us to address what we're doing.
Yeah, women in whiskey.
We are trying to, put our 2 cents worth in and trying to contribute when, again, people say, like, we have a different palate. Yes, we do. We also have a different opinion. And
Yeah.
we have a lot to offer. And we're doing it, and I'm happy about that. Okay, I'm done.
I love you.
Me too.
Amy, before I go to you, is do you think any of you guys on this panel, do you think and or appreciate that women in this industry is becoming normalized by people like in this garage that getting someone on that owns a pub that's a veteran distributor or someone like Anne that's a brand ambassador / we couldn't figure out what your business card said the last time you were on.
I don't know.
Is it a
either.
good thing, bad thing? I'm not prefacing it. Like, I don't even think about it. I don't like, this is, who do I need to talk to?
I'm jumping in. I feel like
all right,
Amy.
Anne, you're gonna do your closing remarks.
So of all of
Amy,
us
stand
right
by.
here, Amy has had the hardest. I mean, that is like the last stand. Basically, like Amy really is the rarity in the industry to see a female whiskey bar owner. I can't think of another one.
Knowledgeable.
Yeah, a knowledgeable, like, this is what you do.
Oh, guys, thanks.
Yeah.
No, for real.
Do you want me to bring you back down?
Yeah, please. I'm way up there.
You
Bring me down.
sometimes sound kind of a dick, which is it's awesome
And she's
too.
so pretty.
Because I have to be, because I'm a female in
well,
this
you don't have to
industry.
be. When I
That's
come
my
in
closing.
there and
Don't
I
worry,
order
you
some
don't want
whiskeys,
anybody
you're still
calling
kind of a dick.
You
You're
can just
kinda-
go to work
Go on, that's
and
just our-
they'll bring you down.
That's our
It's fine.
thing.
And what are your closing remarks, though? Is
Oh,
that
my
it?
closing remarks.
Is are your closing remarks about Amy?
They are.
Come
So,
on.
I would just say, like, this was so fun tonight. We never get
good
to
time.
hang out.
I'm glad I could give
And,
you guys a venue to.
I'm-
Yeah, we weren't working tonight. This was just a drinking
I'm
extravaganza.
glad.
Next time you guys want to hang out, I'll open the garage. I'll be inside. You guys have a good time. I'll put on some music. You guys can fucking get shit faced. There you go.
No, it was great. This is
Do you drink when he says the F word?
No, you'd
No.
be all
okay.
be hammered.
Just me.
Yeah, only when he mentions his age.
I would just say, like, this year has been insane.
Yes.
And
Yes.
go out and support, like, local distilleries, support privately owned independent bars and restaurants. It's like the big chains, the whatever, the big liquor stores, they're gonna make it, but it's these, like, small businesses. This is somebody's dream. So go out, and if you're gonna spend your money, support them. That's my thought.
That's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I could not agree more.
Amy, that's not your closing remarks. Amy, go ahead.
No, first of all, I appreciate you because I feel like you are very pro women. You go out and make a point to have us on here and let us have a platform to talk about this stuff, and you seem to be very aware of it.
Yeah.
And you seem to see it as a real thing. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure, honestly. I would have never thought that this would be a thing. 142 episodes in, I would never thought that honestly, to your point, it's not pro women. It's more I didn't think that we had to do this anymore, and I.
But the fact that you have said this is the first group of 3 women on the podcast.
I can barely get 3 women to talk to me, honestly. So this is a.
We can get you more.
Oh, Jesus
We can
Christ.
get a room.
I don't know if I can handle it.
Wait, we gotta log off real quick. We gotta
Like
log
I
off real
said,
quick.
I need a bigger
I got
table.
it.
I need a bigger. I need a 3-car garage.
Yeah. We'll fill it up.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
so thank you. I appreciate that. And then I always have looked to other women in the industry and other strong women in industries that are male dominated to kind of drive me forward and make me want to be better. I know that is probably the reason that I am so driven and tough myself to kind of overcompensate for some of that. And we have some great role models and I want to be a great role model for somebody else, as you guys too. So, as long as we keep this conversation going and kind of address it and normalize it, I suppose, a little bit, and normalize it. There we go. A little bit.
Where can we find you, Amy?
McClelland's Pub.
Oh, at the
Yes.
pub. I sleep there.
please.
Tell us how to get there.
Please say where it is.
It's on Sawmill Road.
What
Okay.
city for those that aren't?
It's
Dublin?
Columbus.
Is it
Columbus,
it is
Ohio.
Columbus.
Yeah, technically Columbus. On Sawmill
Dublin
Road.
side, northwest side.
Yep. Sawmill and Snoffer. Yeah, we're right next to
right
Lake
off
Fresh Time.
270.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I'm literally always there.
So come say
Literally.
hi.
Facts.
Yeah.
So my closing remarks is, it's funny that you say that I, pro women and all that stuff. Having you guys on, for me, what's interesting for me is that, call me ignorant, I just, it's exhausting to think that we need to keep talking about this, right? So, for me, with what's going on the United States and the political side of things, is I have a lot of friends, from the cigar industry, from the whiskey industry, from college, from high school, from Columbus area, that I'm friends of friends, and now we're friends, and I also go on Twitter and all this stuff and social media, and I see everyone freaking out right now, and I don't post as much because, if I were to, in a sense, expose what I'm voting for and why, it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Right. So this is my everyday. This is you three being on this podcast. I can comment, and that's what I said earlier. Is that having you three on here? It's like, all right, so I would rather. I'm of the opinion I'd rather have you three on here and talk about whiskey and talk about your perspective of the industry, and leave the genitalia and the everything else out of it. But I think there is something there, and I understand where we're still at, right? So I don't think we're gonna take a whole lot of steps backward. And the reason that is that when we talk about 2020, we have this conversation tonight, and we talk about, and I brought up the question of, does this, in this situation, based on recent years, leave you more driven? That's who's surviving. And going back to it, it's not about you guys being women. It's about that you have a reason to be driven, and there are males, there are white people, there are black people, there are other diverse, different backgrounds that are driven during this time, and that's who's going to survive. I'm working for a company that is owned by a white male that grew up in Indiana. I'm a white male that grew up mostly here in Columbus. And the fact that, Amy, you said something about like me being like pro women, that's just what, in my mind, and that's that short-minded, maybe, that's just what you do. It doesn't, like, I don't.
But everybody doesn't do it.
I know,
Right,
and that's
right.
where
And
that's
not
why
everybody grew
having
up
you
that
guys
way.
on,
Yeah.
that's why the topic came up, right? So this is the realization. For me, and no disrespect, I don't fucking care.
Right.
You guys do what you do.
Well,
and you're
the
killing
people
it,
that have been
right?
fighting, they're going to continue fighting. They've been fighting for a long time.
Exactly.
And that's any gender. If you're a fighter, you're going to keep going. And I think that just pertains to a lot of women in the industry that we've
So
been
for me-
fighting.
yeah, exactly.
Gonna keep
You're
going.
absolutely right, and so that is my short sign. Like, my thing is that doing this podcast, as long as we've done it, it's about whiskey, it's about cigars, and I've always fought when Jake was a part of this I was ready to back out because I wanted a part two. I wanted something that this is what you do. You get together. You guys are all from the whiskey world. This is something when you have drinks, you talk about life. This is what happens. You own a bar. You're at a bar. You're trying to promote your products. You are working for something that, and that people can look at whiskey as a sin and as something that is bad for people, but when it comes down to it, there are negatives to every aspect of it. You know, when I started in the cigar industry, it was, aren't you worried about the smoke? Aren't you worried about your health? And I got to be honest, I was in my young 30s, and I was, in the first year I worked there, I lost 50 pounds, and I was the happiest, least amount of stress. And I realized that everyone I looked up to that were older than me, male, female, whatever, heart disease, stress, divorce, like all these things. And I went through some of those things. But when it came down to it, it made you happy. Like Kristin, you said, you can't believe you do this for a living, in a sense, right? That's how I thought. So you guys are all doing these things that's a positive in people's lives. And the fact that you're women, I don't want to belittle that, but it's like you're doing it because of the positive first. And the fact you have an uphill battle because you're women sucks. I'm of the minority maybe that I'm looking at it. It's like I walk into McClelland's pub and it's like, Amy's the owner. I'm like, that's fucking badass. Like, cool.
Love
like,
seeing
Amy,
that.
what do you recommend? You know, I don't
Yeah.
think that way. And maybe that's the big struggle, right? This is the normalization of it. This is the desensitizing people to the stigma of women, male, race, anything else. And I'm trying not to dive down too far into it, but it's like, it's not that I don't care. I don't think about it, and it's not like I am pro women. I am pro everything. Like I'm also conservative. So there are a lot of people that look at me that I am, because of the conservative side. They look at the surface level, and I encourage everyone to not look at just who are you voting for, who do you patronize, who do you go into support, and everything else. I was very disappointed when I actually researched my local ballot. It's like, okay, cool, you're a Republican, so let me guess before I even click on all your shit. You're pro-gun, you're against murdering, like, you know, these unborn babies, and you're all this stuff. Democrat, you're for equal rights, you're for like giving out money, all this stuff. I'm like, I don't fucking like either of you guys. So now I gotta pick. Like, where's the middle guy?
Yeah, there's a middle.
It's very
Where's the
brave.
middle guy?
It's very brave to say that, Steve. It really is
Wow.
very brave to say it. No,
Once
it is
again,
very
it's not
brave to
brave.
say it.
I just don't fucking
Yeah.
care.
Well, it is very brave to say
Yeah,
it,
well.
and I
Thank you.
Brave and
appreciate
not
you
caring is
supporting.
very-
I
very-
appreciate you supporting us in this platform.
Here's my insensitive part. Is if any of you guys in your positions were male, we're not even talking about race, but if any of you were male, I'd still have you on the podcast.
Well,
The fact you're
sure.
female, it's not like overlooking that. I appreciate that. It's the fact that it's like you guys do what you do. That's the equality, right? That's the whole thing.
But I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, if you had each of us in our positions on your podcast and they were men,
That'd be a pretty impressive group.
I mean,
Isn't
there
that
wouldn't
so
be.
funny?
No, I'm actually what I'm thinking is they'd be like, okay, great. I can't
I
wait to hear
admire
what these
those
guys have to
guys.
say.
Like,
When you
wow.
put 3 women on the panel,
Yeah.
everybody's going to be like, ooh, what's going to happen here? You know what I mean?
No,
That's
you're
what makes
not-
it
you're not
different.
wrong.
So
No, I know I'm
funny.
not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wrong a lot, but I'm not wrong about that. I'm not wrong about
We
that, and I'm
all are.
smart enough to know that I'm wrong a lot.
Right,
I'd listen
right.
to that guy.
I mean, seriously, like, when you say you're going to have 3 women, seriously, what would happen? Because you had mentioned,
here's-
like, what would happen if you said you had
Botox
a
and lipo
black
stuff.
dude,
No,
a
it's
black
fine.
dude, and a black dude in these positions?
You
And
know.
I'm not trying to make it political because you said it,
No,
you
you're
said
right.
it. But I'm just saying,
I'd have
like,
him on
it
the
would be
podcast.
completely different if it was 3
love
white
that
men
saying.
in these seats. It would be completely different.
You know, it was funny. I'll leave it at this: is that, you know, Amy brought up what I posted on Facebook and Instagram when I promoted this, and
So
it was women and whiskey. It's like 2 of my favorite things, and it's not wrong. And that's
It's
not
not
like
wrong.
sexist. That's not like this.
It's
is
not
just-
wrong.
and I'm also not just like fooling around or any of that stuff. It's like I love women and I love whiskey, and I got to be honest that historically, women have run the world. They've caused a lot of problems. They've also solved a lot of problems.
Right.
And you
That one.
pour a glass/bottle of whiskey. Also, lined up this podcast, solved a lot of problems. It's also caused a lot of problems.
So, in the words of Homer Simpson,
Oh, we're bringing in
alcohol is the cause of and solution to, or seriously? I mean, it's the same thing. It really is. I mean,
Goddamn right.
we know that this nectar is very valuable. We also know it can be very damaging, but
Gotta
I
find
mean,
that
I
balance,
gotta
and
roll
that's
the
what this
dice with
podcast's
it,
all about.
and I mean, I'm gonna enjoy the beauty of it.
I gotta tell you,
and
the
these
same thing with,
conversations are
you know,
amazing.
As a male, same thing with women. You gotta find a balance. Because they will run your life. All right, don't. That's why you're shaking your head there, Amy. And you're texting.
No, I'm reading the comments. You guys.
No, you guys.
Reading the
thank you
comments.
for being here.
All
You guys have
right.
been
Cheers.
amazing guests.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for inviting
Thank
us.
you so much
I
for
hope
having
you guys feel
us.
like coming
Oh my
back.
gosh.
guys.
Cheers.
Cheers to everyone out there. Share, like, and everything else, guys.
Visit McClelland's.
McClelland's.
Oh.
Yes.
Buy
Absolutely. Go to
Watershed.
McClelland's.
And if we ever find out what RDNC actually
RNDC.
distributes-
RNDC.
I told you I was gonna mess it up.
Yeah.
RDDC.
RCDC.
Thank you to Tinder Box and Easton for supporting us. Also, Altadis USA, BS Cigar Company, and Patreon.com/BourbonBS Podcast. You guys are the big, game changers for us. So thank you very much, ladies. I'm gonna say this: we should do it again.
We should do it again. It's been great.
Anne just smiles. Amy's quiet.
We
So-
would love to. We're worried we're never invited.
I know.
There's your
See
invite.
what all the dudes say when this is over.
Well, I'm one of them, and I.
It's like the
actually
polite
hosted, so.
invite at the end of the we should
Guys-
do it again.
Guys and girls out there, happy Whiskey Wednesday. I hope you guys like, share, review, listen to it on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, everything. This is real conversation that you guys should have, and if you're not having it, I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.
Cheers. Love you guys.